Welcome back to the SMITE Console League. My name is Finch. I'm happy to have you here with us. We are indeed still doing console. The only difference is that right now it's North America. We wrapped up Europe with those first two sets. I got Anatoly Alexeyenok right here next to me, though. And we're going to be looking at an actually pretty important set here in PS4 in A. Ebug going up against Nemesis.
That's right. Nemesis currently sitting at 6-2. Very close to qualifying after a couple more wins, but that doesn't mean that Ebug are out of the running. Their destiny is still in their hands, especially if they win this set.
This set really is huge. It could be that determining factor for who goes just straight up determined right here. If everything else unfolds the way we expect it to, then in that case. But yeah, man, Nemesis were far and away the top team, I would have said, in PS4 NA in first phase. But here in phase 2, it's actually mostly been Ebug. Nemesis have kind of been surging lately to have reclaimed that top spot. But if you came to this set expecting a stomp, I doubt that's what we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not expecting a stomp at all because both of these teams are, I'd say, evenly matched despite a slightly different points in the standings. It's all going to come down to the picks and bans.
It certainly is. Nemesis maybe with a slight edge, I would have said coming into this, but based off of the performances that we've seen, I do agree. I expect this one to be relatively close, and maybe even potentially come down to that jungle matchup. We'll be able to determine a bit more from these picks and bans. Ebog banning the Thor, Nemesis banning the Geb, but remember, we're still thinking Persephone, Set, Isis, those ones have to get banned, and now with this Odin ban, maybe that's less likely.
It's possible. With the Odin ban, that leads me to believe Ebog are going for gods that can't leap away from the cages, so a lot of dashes, maybe no dashes. Olorun first pick is highly contestable, I think, with this Odin ban, so I like the idea here, but it might be revealing their cards.
Hell being banned away too, and that's interesting. Hell's one that if you wanted, you would have banned the Odin, but those two don't necessarily line up. So Ebog taking... using that first pick correctly, they know there's a lot of stuff they want to pick from, so they can ban away this Hell, Odin, and Thor. But Nemesis respond by not banning any of the top-tier stuff. If Ebog take, like, a Persephone, then that means, like, what, Set could potentially be left over, plus Isis, but Ebog instead valuing the Chronos. A lot of what's considered top is still out there.
That's true. So they're going to try to allow Nemesis to go for 2 of those top 3 picks and maybe pick up the last third one, but instead, not going for 2 of the 3 yet. Instead, going for the Zhong. Very protective kind of pick, hard to really gank, and yet again, a lot of mind games between these two teams.
I will say, this is something that we have seen before from PS4 NA in particular. I don't even mean all of console, I mean PS4 NA. They tend to let the top stuff just kind of go. They come in with a game plan of what they want to play, and they prioritize that over just about anything else. I don't know if that's always correct. Set, Isis, and Persephone are things you should be picking, but that's not what's happening here in this game. Set finally comes through. It's Chronos, Set, and Hercules.
Ravana instead, so I'm expecting a little bit of bans from the Isis and the Persephone, not to allow that to go into Nemesis's hands, considering they are going to be this next pick. And Ravana is a very safe pick, but normally you would draft a Ravana when there's like a Poseidon or a Zeus, Scylla, something that you need to dive, get them out of the fight. And right now, it's really unclear of where the mid-mage is going to be. Chronos usually ends up in the long lane.
Agreed. You still don't necessarily know that it is a particularly punishable mid lane or anything like that could be coming through. But Ravana is not just a strong pick, but something that Jumpah does like to play. So I think he can take that to just about any matchup, even not so much reliant on what gets picked on the other side. Nemesis choosing to ban away the Unbots for the control and the Ullr for the early presence. There's already a Hercules there for Ebug. You don't want to give them too much more early game.
Yeah, I agree. That's a lot of burst damage between the Set and the Hercules. So as long as they can group up and fight on their own terms, I'm liking it for for Ebug to be able to force that issue, as Nemesis is more about sustained damage with the Zhong with the critical strikes from Xing.
Ebog making the decision eventually that Isis is of some value and deciding to ban that one away. I find myself agreeing. Horus will come through to give Nemesis an early game support in their own right. A warrior to try and match that of Hercules, but Amaterasu and Merlin picked in for Ebog. Those are 2 very good last picks.
Definitely late game focused is Ebog. The damage from Set, the mobility from Amaterasu, but there's also going to be mobility from Nemesis with this last pick.
Wow, we don't see much Janus anymore at all, I would say, which is very surprising. He still brings a ton of utility, but some of that inconsistency I do think has started to come back a little bit. There's a lot of priority mid laners you want nowadays. Janus, though, is going to be the pick for Nemesis.
And it feels like Janus used to be picked a lot in conjunction with the Amaterasu to get double the mobility, double the fun.
Well, you know what? No Persephone picked and or banned here in this one. A bit odd, perhaps, but neither of these teams choosing to value it or even being worried that the opposition would. So instead, we will see how this set and the Isis end up matching up. Or not the Isis was banned out, but just the set probably as the most high-value individual pick here in this match.
Vultiee taking a lot of damage already to start, as it's going to be Jumpah soloing out his own speed buff. I think the goal of cCoils and mattkoiz is going to be to put pressure in mid and then look for a red buff invade.
They're going to have a ton of rotational ability here throughout this game as Vultiee takes some early damage. As you said, keep an eye there on cCoils and cCoils and where they choose to go after just kind of pushing this midway very quickly. And they are going to go back towards their own red and just defend, so no crazy invade shenanigans.
Yeah, not really seeing it quite yet, even though I think they had a small window to do so. Jumpah kind of slow on the clear, considering that he needed to solo out his speed buff, whereas Spartan getting some assistance from his mid laner, Nano, getting that level 2 marker. Not going to see too much action, I think, in the solo lane. Both of these guys very more mid to late game focused.
And now that Ryan Jarman is the Jarmangandr, I expect him to be on in every single game, just having some fun. As Zaxy very nearly gets sold on the left-hand side. Zen can't find it, but there's more action yet to be found. Vultiee with a blink into the driving strike does have the pull that brings them back in, but still somehow Jumpah alive. Now starting to melt into the flames, and Nano finds first blood. That's a nice unstable vortex, but they're not done yet. mattkoiz slowed. The knockup's good. He finds one return kill, but dies to original Spartan.
Good kiting coming through from mattkoiz to at least get some value before he does go down. Very unfortunate for Jumpah there, getting caught by that pull. Good disruption from mattkoiz, prevents the driving strike, which would have been a faster kill.
Nano.
Okay, not respecting the early Merlin damage, trying to be a little too fancy with the portal.
I agree, man. I think that you just got to be a little bit more careful there in that spot if you're cCoils. Certainly, especially that first ability in the Ice Dance, that's some of the most consistent damage I feel like that Merlin has in terms of making sure that you're able to land it. So yeah, that's a bit risky there from cCoils.
And for cCoils on the Janus, your goal is not to go for poke damage on the Janus.
Right.
Your goal is just to farm.
He does it so well.
Yeah, use your mobility with your threshold, with your portals that not only displace you closer to these buffs, but also gives you movement speed through the passive.
Time for mattkoiz to go aggressive, forces out the beads from Zen, and I think that's job done for the support side from Nemesis. Zen's going to be a bit more vulnerable the next time someone pokes their head in. Doesn't even necessarily have to be cCoils. Jumpah could certainly make an impactful gank of his own.
And it's 160 seconds versus about 110 on the side of mattkoiz. So using that differential of relic timers is easy for cCoils to know, like, okay, my blink just came off cooldown. It's time to make my reappearance in the long lane.
That's right. You don't even have to necessarily put that in chat, do you? Just cCoils looks down his blink and goes, nope. Zen definitely still does not have beads yet here at this point, so an easy way to keep track of that one. As things have been, there's been some action. There was like one big fight there around that left side mid-harpit, but we haven't seen a ton of invade, which has really been the meta here lately. Most of these teams seem to be, for the most part, sticking to their own side of the map.
I agree. 4 kills in 3 minutes is pretty action-packed, I'd say, for a competitive SMITE game. Doesn't matter if it's the console league, minor league, or the pro league, but I'm expecting things to start ramping up more with invades once the kills become a little bit easier. Because right now they've been down and dirty. It hasn't been clean next to a buff. The invades are going to be coming soon, though.
cCoils considering coming in to make good on that beads conversation we were talking about earlier, but doesn't have to necessarily pick that moment. I don't think there was a ward up there, so I don't know if Zen knows for sure, but maybe he's able to tell off of some of the positioning from Zaxy on the left-hand side. Now cCoils comes in, knows there's no beads, but there is a rewind. cCoils will not force that cooldown either.
That's what makes Chronos so safe. Like, yeah, you can gank him, but he's just going to rewind probably closer to his tower once he does get that off anyway. No beads for him.
Knock up, and that's room for Zaxy's damage. Airstrike gets off in time. That's crazy. I can't believe there was time for that damage to come through, and Zen does eventually fall.
That rewind felt like it took an eternity, especially if you're InMyZen. It's like,
if he's a master of time, speed that up a little bit, right?
Right? Like, you would expect to be the master of your own craft, despite Zen relying on that passive. Can't rely on that ultimate in time.
And again, that's not a joke at Zen. I think he did fine there. More like a Chronos should be able to rewind that a little faster.
I think
but
Chronos should be faster.
He's already plenty strong, though. He probably doesn't need any additional help. These blue buffs, though, on the right side are about to spawn. So we see both junglers here, Jumpah and Spartan, both just taking care of their own. So again, a lot of kind of sticking to their own side. I'm just surprised they're not valuing a lot of the same picks we see a lot of other teams value, or the invades. That is a PS4 NA specific thing that's happening, I feel like.
Probably, maybe giving a little bit too much respect to their opposition. Could be invading some backhands, but they don't have the timers for it quite yet. Gonna set up a trap, though, for Jarmangandr.
Yeah, Spartan has now dropped the slow, but a good two-man stun. But there's 4 members of the right-hand side. No way Ryan Jarman survives this. Celebratory boulder from Vultiee just to say hello, and they do indeed grab that pick. But that's a huge investment. Through space and time was used from cCoils, too, to bring some help over, but, I mean, that's about it.
I think they were using that ultimate trying to kill Spartan. Normally you want to throw out that ultimate to give an escape route with those portals. Unfortunately, too little, too late. This combo between the Amaterasu, Hercules, and also Set might be showing up more than once in this solo lane.
That's a good point. That is a ton of just run down at you potential. I don't know what you can do about it for the most part. They're going to need some really serious damage out of Zachsy. I don't even know if he's going to be able to go crit this time. There's 2 warriors who can pretty viably just kind of walk through it.
I agree, as Jarmangandr doesn't have beads, so he's not going to be able to get away from the initial stun of the Amaterasu, which is guaranteed, even under the tier 1 tower.
Right. That's
going to basically tickle them as they can juggle the aggro. As a Zhong, every time he dies, the protections are going to get reset halfway through, so it makes it easier to kill him on the next round.
I'm very interested in what Spartan's going to be going here with Set in the jungle. I feel like we see him do some of his best work out of the solo lane, but certainly could still be potent here. Zachsy might have overstepped. He still has airstrike, still has beads, so Vultiee, this will not be an easy gank attempt. The airstrike's the first call, and that's good. Ebog, you can see them immediately bounce back off that. No need to keep going once they got that cooldown.
Save your purification beads. Use your 90-second cooldown ultimate and save that 160-second defensive relic for another time.
That's a great call there from Zachsy. Gets him back out. And he can kind of step back up and be aggressive against it. He does still have the beads and the leap. No reason why he can't keep looking for pressure on the Zen as Jarman falls yet again. Jumpah wants to try and even this trade back up and fix Spartan's face. Spartan goes back in with the skewer. It does cost him his life, but it sets up for yWaddle to make it 2 for 1.
I love that play coming through from Spartan. Unfortunately, didn't have the survivability to get out of that cleanly, but he set up his team beautifully.
cCoils pulled back in, and there's the boulder on the mark from Vultiee. That time, no problemo. 7-3 in terms of the kills, and 2,000 up for Ebog, and it's been around this pressure on Jarman, and Jarman's gonna spawn right back into more pressure.
Yeah, I don't know about this play because, if Vultiee hit that pull, that might have been another kill there potentially, but Spartan going down there, making it a 3 for 1. You wanted some invades, Finch. They're gonna try to go for the blue buff. Is successful in doing that, and that's a big win. 3 kills to 1 and a blue buff.
Yeah, that's a really good sequence there for Ebog, and I was a bit worried, about all this continued pressure onto the Zhong, but it's been working really, really well for him. If they're willing to rotate 4 over and Nemesis don't have a good answer back on the left side of the map, like they don't feel comfortable going for Gold Fury, that's going to keep working for Ebog.
It's true. I think that Zachsy should be able to maybe make that call eventually. This level 10 Jing doesn't have the most powerful damage spike. Still needs the Executioner for the attack speed and penetration to make that objective go down a little bit faster. And even then, InMyZen, he has a potential to steal it with just a time stop and time rift. It's risky either way if you're Nemesis.
I think you're right. I mean, it's relatively low committal too. If Zen comes in, goes for the steal, and then immediately rewinds his way back out, I don't know if you punish him on the backside, so maybe that is why Nemesis are playing it slow. But remember, this Nemesis team aren't just the Phase 1 champs, the MSI reps. This is a team full of just storied players. Jumpah's won a world championship. mattkoiz's team was the runner-ups just last year as well. And Jarman and Zachsy have both been around forever in this scene. This is a storied roster that should be able to overcome. But Jarman under pressure again. But now it's just Spartan by himself. Aggro was reset to him, and a nice cleanup kill there from Jumpah.
Surprised Spartan continued that pressure when yWaddle already used his ultimate. It was down, so there was no stun potential onto Jarmangandr. It's just getting a little harder now with more protections. It seems that Jarmangandr is going to go for the Lotus Crown, reducing that physical power now, so he'll be able to survive those ganks even easier now.
Should be there for him, as it looks like he goes the Jade Emperor's route here. We don't see this that much, I feel like,
No,
totally.
definitely not. But I mean, like, it's an aura that reduces physical power.
Right.
So not only is it helping you in the solo lane matchup, but against any jungler gank as well. So effectively,
It's good, yeah.
It's as if you're so with 2 targets, instead of like, let's say, thinking about it in the sense of you're reducing their power by 60 total, it's you gaining 60 physical protection in another way.
Right. So I think this could certainly work, especially if they're going to keep coming to dive him. It'll be a really good pickup there for Jarman in that spot. So I like it. As yet again, Ebog get Oracle Vision, but aren't ready to start pulling this Gold Fury. They've mostly been active on the right-hand side, so no surprise they're not particularly aggressive about grabbing gold.
Unfortunate they're not able to deal with that burst damage coming through from yWaddle's Amaterasu. That's the one problem with Zhong or occasionally in the solo lane. You might have the positional advantage, but you're relying on your dots and your card. You have to find that right stun before you drop the exorcism.
Well, how much do you like this team fight from Nemesis Tully if we fast forward, like 6 or 7 minutes or so? Because, I mean, I think they have a lot of good tools. I just don't necessarily know that I think they all do the same job. It's like Jumpah wants to dive, and Jarman wants to be right in the middle, and where's Coils fit into this one? How do you see this draft from them working?
It's hard to say because, like you mentioned, Jarmangandr wants to go in, right? But then his Jade Emperor's Crown is not going to help out his backline, right? Because yWaddle and Spartan are going to be doing the same thing that Jarmangandr are doing. So I'm expecting just an all-in commit from Nemesis, and if it backtracks and fails, use the Janus portals to disengage.
Maybe not a bad look at it. Meanwhile, Ebog have a scary, very clear type, sort of wrecking ball type draft here from them. They would love to just run it at you. All is 5 and see if they could potentially just overwhelm you with that dazzling offensive you can't peel off, or with Vultiee on this tanky Hercules. They could very much be a scary draft, but Zaxy won't let them get there for free. Zen gets soloed.
Wow, not even an airstrike necessary. Spartan using the beads there. Still will get out of the action, respecting that gank from yWaddle. Jumpah will disengage momentarily. Zaxy using that airstrike on the left side to get away from Nano, but this has been back and forth. 12 kills in 12 minutes.
That's right. There's been a lot of action. Maybe not a ton of invades, but just in terms of gank attempts in lane or just straight up 1v1 fights, there's been plenty of that. As Spartan has to hide, Coils went on a fact-finding mission, couldn't quite hunt him down, will settle for stripping away those camps.
Coils not going to get pulled here from Vultiee. It's important for Nemesis' side laners to really start stepping up as we're approaching this mid-game. Jing is getting more powerful now, working on what I think is going to be a rage I'm expecting as Jarmangandr has finished his great power spike of the Jade Emperors. Wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe go for a Void Stone for some magical penetration and defense. And this is where the side laners need to start grouping up in the mid game.
It's so funny. In our set earlier, we were talking about the rage and how it was too much of a late game investment for that 12k deficit they were staring down. But for Zaxy here, this is perfect. Jing synergized with this item so well, won't necessarily have to build another crit item right away either, thanks to explosive bolts. But Coils is under duress, has to try and get out of there with that portal, but Spartan is right there to try and follow up, and the portal's going to be down for a bit. 30% CDR, though, for Coils, so it won't be too long. Spartan
missing that skewer to apply the slow. Allows Coils to still walk away, but he's low enough without much mana to the point that he still has to back, right? So, NanoBruv is going to be able to at least farm it out a little bit. But look where Jarmangandr is, just casually invading the speed.
Yeah, as if he hasn't been getting camped all game. Now, as soon as they give him a few moments to breathe, he makes him pay. That's why they spent so much time over there, man. You can't let Jarman just have a free lane. He'll certainly cause some problems. Zen yet again, though, soloed by Zaxy.
He's just a little bit too slow, it feels like, on the rewind, despite having that Pythax piece.
And now Vultee's going to drop as well. Coils is the one that finds that kill. I might have said they don't necessarily have a great cohesion as a unit, but if Zaxy's going to get solo kills and they'll find picks, it won't matter.
Yeah, with Beats and Aegis still up, he just can't get the rewind off. Now, if he does get the rewind off, there is that outplay potential.
Nemesis secure the objective. No steal there from Spartan as they find a good timing off the back of those 2 kills. But it looks like Spartan and yWaddle do want to at the very least strip this red, but I don't know how free this is for them to take. Nemesis aren't that low, and even though there aren't that many ultimates, they still have the blink, and Spartan, the early target, now quite low, but they don't have the damage to finish things off. The invade still being considered by Spartan and gotten. Okay, that worked out.
Is he going to be able to get out? Okay, To the Skies was used defensively under that tier 2. I thought it was going to be potentially a chase down onto Spartan as cCoils didn't have through space and time. So at least Ebog has gotten something. Not only the red buff, but also the tier 1 mid.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. Obviously, they still lost that fight in terms of those 2 picks and the Fury, so it's never going to be a good fight for Ebog, but they mitigated the losses there about as much as you could have hoped to on the back of that, and just credit to Spartan for the good recognition that he could still do red and leave.
I like the item choices from a lot of these players. yWaddle kind of taking a page out of Jarmangandr's book. It's like, what you can do, I can do as well. So Runic Shield to match the Jade Emperor's crown, but you're reducing magical power by 50 as well. So Zhong gets hurt a lot by that, considering that he has a lot of damage over time. It's not like one big ultimate ability.
Yeah, going to be a battle. The auras there as mattkoiz does get the beads out from Nano and gets stunned, but not pushed. Boulder doesn't quite catch up to cCoils, but there is still aggression coming in the form of yWaddle. But yWaddle can't find his damage either. He misses. He's had to rely on Dazzling Offensive to get the job done from here. It not only gets the kill, but brings cCoils down low and forces the ult.
A good defensive ult as well. Vultie's not done yet, though. Driving Strike just narrowly off the mark. Even forces out Jarmangandr's ultimate to prevent any knockbacks.
But yWaddle gets caught out as well, and Zaxy finds himself a kill. These skirmishes are looking nice here for Nemesis as yWaddle ends up falling too, but Nano with the response on the Jarm.
This is the problem with Zhong. Sometimes you could be out of position, aggressively making a play, and then if things don't go your way, you have no escape option, especially against a team that uses an Amaterasu movement speed.
This feels like it's going to be between Zaxy and Nano, but I don't know how Nano can keep up. He's only level 14 because Zaxy's been getting all that long lane farm. This is the Pyromancer for Ebog. That's going to help a lot. But 4-0-0 for this Jing Wei with the raid starting to get stacked up, that's pretty scary, Tully.
Having 2 stacks of it already, working on an Executioner for the penetration. Yeah. Doubt it's going to be anything else, considering he already has the Devo gloves. So we're going to see a lot of damage already increasing from him, as if it's not high enough already. To be in 2nd place from the long lane as a traditional hunter, mind you. Not like a spammy poke-oriented mage.
Yeah, we just don't see that much. You're exactly right, man. And Jarman has done a great job over there in the solo lane to be up near the top with yWaddle right behind him. But that Jing Wei's name is even in the race is pretty impressive. Ebog going to have to start worrying about how to slow this down. And I was saying earlier that sometimes warriors are a good answer because they build so much protections. It doesn't feel like your crit can get through. They can build thorns quite well too, or Nemeans, but that doesn't look to be the build path. Horrific Emblem from yWaddle might still cover that gap though.
It does reduce your damage output and your attack speed, so it's a different way of discouraging hunters from being effective in these team fights, but I would have loved to see at least maybe a Height of Nemean line. But instead, it's looking like it's going to be a Void Shield.
Zen has to use the Aegis. You were saying he wasn't using his defensive options soon enough. That time, it does get him out of trouble. But yes, I think Void Shield makes some sense here from yWaddle. It can, again, do something similar by kind of, again, reducing the damage that they're dealing. But Nemean might particularly feel a little bit better against Zaxy. He's really going to clearly be the problem.
The thing is, with Ebog's build, it feels like it's aggressive. Shaman's Ring from Nano, Void Shield from yWaddle, Spartan going for the Relic Dagger.
Yeah.
This is where it looks like Ebog is just going to all-in Death Ball dive.
Jarman's in trouble yet again here on the right-hand side. Starts recalling some demons, but gets stunned and brought down too low. That through space and time doesn't help anything as Jarman's in the afterlife. But Nemesis are responding on the left-hand side this time with a tier 2 tower dive, potentially Zaxy putting damage onto the structure. And look at this, way on the backside comes Jumpah. Early beads there from Zen and the rewind to buy some time.
The goal is the tower though, but they are going to switch it now to Zen. A little bit off the mark to Zaxy, and they cannot get the kill.
And now Ebog are just going to start the Fire Giant. I think that Nemesis might have miscalculated on this one unless cCoils can strip this away. Fire Giant now quite low, and Nano needs to be the secure. cCoils here as well. Someone has to zone him out, but they're slowing down the DPS. They've got to do this Fire Giant soon because Nemesis are on their way. And Ebog finally do secure it. cCoils still alive, but there's so many low health bars.
Jumpah almost stealing that with a Mystic Rush, but he's definitely here to play cleanup crew. Nano's going to be first, diving through the portal is cCoils into safety. yWaddle couldn't get the last hit.
They needed to decide there. They let cCoils buy too much time. Now Spartan has to disengage, but he's heading right towards the waiting hands of Zaxy. if he's not careful, starts coming down towards the bottom. And there's mattkoiz, but he misses the root. Jumpah should have one on his own too, but I think Spartan's out.
Just out of range. Zaxy now making his rotation. Spartan is still here, by the way. Plays cleanup against cCoils. Jarmangandr from the grave is going to be able to take out Spartan.
Yeah, I don't know that that is worth, Tully.
I mean, okay, so you get Fire Giant, but you only lose 2 players, both of them being between jungle and mid.
But you didn't have to lose Spartan, though, right? Like, he chose to go back in.
Yeah, he did. He was greedy for the kill onto cCoils.
yWaddle now in some trouble as well. He's been brought down quite low. Disengages Zen. This is ambitious at best here on the Primal Fury, and all of Nemesis are coming over. And now that it's so low HP, they could just pick it right back up. Vultiee rather, is still waiting in the back. Rewind from Zen. This is so weird, this last few bit of an exchange.
Yeah, trying to peel now because he realizes Vultee's in a bad position. He will go down, but yWaddle is going to go in with a dazzling offensive.
Okay, so Vultiee has made it down, and yWaddle has turned things back around in his favor. Jarman is going to end up falling as well. I don't know, Tully. This has been sloppy these last few minutes from both of these two teams, and these are teams you're expecting to be the representatives here at the LAN. I don't know that SML and definitely not SPL are going to let that kind of sequence fly.
Definitely not. Ebog really taking advantage of Nemesis clumping up there. 4-player time stop because of that rewind. He used it very loosely before the rewind, and I think that's the only reason he used that ultimate, so he can have a second chance, realizing Vultiee was in a little danger, respecting the solo lane rotation from yWaddle. A great rotation as well with that dazzling offensive. His eyes must have lit up once he popped that ultimate.
But there's so many pieces to go back and look at. First, there's Zen on the left side, and that dive they did on him that doesn't work. They don't get the tower or the kill.
Sure.
And then there's the Fire Giant. That was so slow from Ebog. It felt like they could have committed to doing that or to killing cCoils. And then the chase on the Fire Giant afterwards, it's just piece by piece where I didn't feel like the right calls are being made quick enough.
Both of these teams are not making it easy for the other to make these plays.
Sure.
Right, like cCoils still kind of harassing them. It's a Janus that repositioned himself from the top of the Fire Giant all the way to the bottom, so now you have to shift your attention, and you can't really leave the top of the Fire Giant, go back into the Fire Giant, leave the Fire Giant. That's 3 sources of damage from the ring of fire that goes around it. So I like the plays from both of these teams, just keeping each other on their toes.
I agree, man, but if you think Ebog is making life hard for you or Nemesis, then I got some news about what's going to be happening at Placement Week. And not just Placement Week, but they got to play Hype Unit. PS4 EU's been looking better too. I'm just saying that if the bar is beyond this in any capacity, you got to be ready for those moments.
I absolutely agree with you. And now it's important to figure out a way to clean up this game from Ebog with this current momentum that they have. They haven't really used their Fire Giant buff to the point where they're getting tier 2 towers, but that last little exchange around that Fury is a good little start.
Ooh, cCoils does make it out of there, but Nano shows that at this point in the game, he's got tons of damage, 4, 1, and 4. I was saying there's going to be probably a lot of pressure on Nano to try and match some of Zaxy's value, since those are the two that were both having the best games on their team. And he's starting to get to that point now where you cannot overlook this Merlin.
You got to respect Nano's damage at this point. Having Shaman's Ring at fully evolved state, also the Gem of Isolation for more utility on the slows. mattkoiz wants to make a play, but gonna need to play defense considering Ebog wants to knock on this tier 2 tower in mid.
I don't think I mind this tier 2 tower defense from Nemesis either. They're only down 4K. They're not fighting into the Fire Giant buff either. You don't want to give up too much for free, but you also don't want to overcommit and die in a bad fight here, so it's a tough spot to pick as Nemesis do start to play some defense, but the tower is being shredded. Vultiee, the early target, but he can tank it up. That is it for the tier 2 tower. Dazzling offensive doesn't find much. mattkoiz immune to the stun, but he ends up dying either way. cCoils gets a kill on the yWaddle and trade through space and time, clips 2.
It hits onto Nano. Jarmangandr doing all that he can with his ulted damage between the recall demons. Voids out that driving strike, but Spartan gets 1, loses 2 though in the process. They're gonna lose 3. Actually, their middle Phoenix could be next.
Zen's rewind put him in a perfect spot there to be able to catch out that last kill onto Zaxy they really needed. They still have 4 relatively healthy members to siege this mid Phoenix, and cCoils being zoned out at this point. Jumpah is full HP and can come in and try and contest, but they've got a minion wave in now too.
Oh yeah, now no more backdoor protection. Zen is just having a field day. The tier 2 tower fell very quickly, as did the middle Phoenix, to accelerate on that 4th quadrant, making it so effortlessly, it feels like, for Ebog.
A tough defense there for Nemesis to be able to hold on, but I think that, yeah, this accelerator from Zen does a lot of work for them, shredding the tower and that Phoenix. A good rewind position as the back end as well. If Zachsy's alive for that Phoenix defense, I don't know that it goes that well. And suddenly Ebogs now up about 7K off the back of that Fire Giant call.
Yeah, it's looking really good for them currently. I don't see how Nemesis can really stop the Fire Giant. They need to play defense alongside their towers and the Phoenixes, because now they're going to have this middle wave of
like
fire
maybe don't
minions.
Come out and defend FG?
Yeah, I think it's risky to fight alongside the jungle. You do have the Janus portals. That's nice, but then you're also going to have to deal with the Amaterasu mobility.
Yeah.
So if you're going in, you're not coming out.
That's exactly right. It'll suddenly be a big damage aura or even a speed aura to chase you all down that you got to contend with. So this is yet another difficult call here now for Nemesis. And look at some of these key items Ebog finished. Heartseeker there for Spartan, Soul Reaver there for Nano. This will not be an easy defense, but they're going to send in Jarman to try and stop it, but he doesn't make it there in time. Ebog grabbed the FG, but mattkoiz in the ultimate. They might want to fight this one. No, it's for the disengage. They're just giving up Jarman.
Yeah, and even the portals being sent all the way from left side of the map. cCoils just dropping it just for the damage, because when you're that far away, those portals are not going to actually be placed around the Fire Giant because of the certain mechanic being used. It's only for the damage.
At that point, you're exactly right. Nemesis now have to try and make their defense on the right side minus their solo laner. But fellas, make the defense on the right side minus the solo laner. They do get there in time to start slowing them down. Nano goes for damage on cCoils, but catches a good bit back, and Ebog reset.
Less than half health on this right side. Phoenix still with a 5-on-4 for 15 seconds. yWaddle going to lead the charge. Doesn't have dazzling offensive, but it's almost up.
cCoils, though, keeps pulling at this thread from the backside. I think that's what's made this push so hard. Zen has to use the rewind early, but Vultiee wants to move in and try and take down this Phoenix while it's low. Boulder comes out as well, and they grab their second Phoenix of the game. And another clean disengage from half of them, but not Spartan. He sees cCoil, smells weakness, blood in the water, and starts to dive. Gets the first kill, but now he's in trouble.
Jarmangandr reviving, going to punish Spartan for making that offensive play. Vultiee and yWaddle now going to dive as Zen effortlessly takes out cCoils.
Yeah, cCoils is not particularly tanky up against Zen at this point. Jarman starts to melt as well. 4 members up, only 2 for defense. Jumpah goes in to try and play aggressive, but he gets pushed back out. Maybe he's done enough. I don't know if Zen can step in for damage here.
Oh, I don't know. This Titan's getting lower and lower, Finch. It looks like Ebog got it.
They certainly might, but Jumpah finds a couple of good kills there to slow down the push. Titan at half, and that's all that Ebog are going to get. They got to disengage. Jumpah won't even let him disengage. He's hunting down Nano. Has Zachsy dashing in aggressively, too. There's the killing spree. Airstrike. They want the full-on deicide, but I think yWaddle's made it out.
Yeah, they're not going to catch up to this Amaterasu. Minions onto the Titan, taking a whole bunch of damage. Is this it?
They get back there, they make the defense just in time. So Nemesis now should be able to push out these waves and play A-OK. But Ebog have done so much work. It's just the tier 2 and Phoenix left, and they could probably just make a push.
Oh yeah, they basically have like this whole gift box onto their doorstep going through.
We'll see. What is the play here from Ebog at this point? They have control of the map now, can basically decide where they want to go. The Oni Fury could be great to continue to threaten that Titan. Remember, until all 3 Phoenixes are back up, the Titan won't even start to heal. That mid Phoenix is going to be really vulnerable once it spawns. There's a wave right there. A lot of wave for Ebog to threaten. But hold on, Zachsy continuing trying to contest, or considering to contest this Oni.
It's going to be a little bit scary to try to go in, because if he dies, then that's really going to be it. And now he's out of position without airstrike.
Is able to get that first dash, has some backup here from Jarman, and Spartan might have gone a bit too far, but Vultie's here to help out a little bit if some backup ends up being needed. There's the dazzling offensive, and Jarman can't avoid it, but through space and time, clips nearly the whole team. Zen, though, is the first one that finds the kill.
Trying to take a team fight outside of the Titan, knowing that they can't really defend it. This is kind of smart from Nemesis if it works out.
They find 2 important kills here, though. Zen and Spartan are both down. That's so much damage, but look at Nano. They want to push up and try and grab this mid Phoenix while it's weak, and they should be able to get it before anyone can set up any defense.
Go for the end. Nano needs to flicker in. Gonna beat, flickers. Look at Vultiee, though.
He starts some damage. Just go in, Vultiee. Just go in at this point. That will be enough. Ebog a bit shaky from both teams, I'll say, but Ebog grabs the win.
Wow, Ebog really making it wild in this first game. I love the way that it ended, honestly, because the way Nemesis played that last team fight, it was like desperation.
Yes.
They knew that there's no way in hell they can defend their time. I mean, just look how they ended that game, right? Like, so if that team fight happened at the time, they lose. They force a fight around the red buff with cCoils' ultimate, get 2 picks, but it didn't seem like Ebog wanted to continue that fight in that location any longer.
And Ebog did it a multitude of ways if we can go back towards the beginning. I mean, it was originally pressure onto Jarman, and that kind of put him behind for a little while, but then they started to answer that back, so Ebog started playing around objectives and getting gold furies and those kinds of fights. They did a good job, I think, of handling Nemesis' adaptations.
And Zaxy had a great game as well with a couple of solo kills onto Zen, but it wasn't a translation of getting objectives for them. It was the team fights that really mattered. That Fire Giant call worked out, I think, for Ebog. Even though they did lose 2 members, they were still able to start grouping up and abusing their lead.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tough loss, I'd say, if you're Zaxy, at least with the performance that he had, but maybe the rest of Nemesis not quite there with him that game. I do think on their Phoenix defenses, though, they showed us somewhat could be strong for this team. It was just a bit too late at that point. That's only game 1, though. I don't know, man. I got a feeling this one won't be resolved in 3 or in 2. We'll have a chance to find out, though, after this break.
The SMITE Console League is brought to you by Titan Forge Games, the developers of SMITE.
A highly contested match there in Game 1 does end up with Ebog as your victors, but the set is not done yet. I mean, I even thought it might go longer than 3, so who knows what could happen here in this one. Thanks for joining us, though. I've got Anatoly Alexeyev right here next to me. Ebog versus Nemesis, the top of PS4 NA.
And who would have thought that Ebog would have won game number 1 if you just look at the 2 differentials in the standings. 4-4 currently is Ebog, 6-2 for Nemesis.
That's right. Nemesis are the ones who have been the stronger team here so far up until now. It wasn't that way at the beginning of the phase. I think Nemesis had to go on a bit of a run to get back to that point, but they did reclaim that top spot. Let's see if they can hold on to it, though, and make sure they guarantee themselves that they'll be the representatives here from PS4 NA. They got some work to do based on what we saw there in Game 1 to clean that up a little bit. Maybe they just needed a warm-up.
They really did, honestly. I think that the picks and bans was a little weird to see Persephone not picked or banned, set to go through 4th pick in that first game. as
And
Chronos
ISIS wasn't banned until the second ban phase. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff. We'll see if that's the same call here. Morgan banned out. This was banned away in game 1 as well, so Nemesis clearly do not want to deal with this pick. Meanwhile, Hell being banned away by Ebog. I believe they also banned away the Odin last time, so we'll see if that's something they want to come back to, as this time Set will not be allowed through.
Respecting that play from Spartan there. The dive potential was real. Starting to early dive Jarmangandr in the solo lane a couple times, and then translating that to kills against cCoils. As the Janus just could not get away from him.
Yeah, just going through a narrow wall wasn't going to be enough to get you away from the Set, not that time at least. They'll also ban away the Habois from Nemesis, appears to be the plan from them. So yet again, Set's the only real sort of top ban that we see as a general consensus right now. Though as I said, PS4NA does kind of do things their own way.
They do. Thor being banned by Ebog yet again. Last time they were first pick, this time second pick. So we'll see what kind of counter matchup that they are looking for. It was Nemesis in the first game that banned away the Geb, but they know that they're going to have a lot of pressure now with this Geb, trying to really make those plays happen with the Cataclysm.
Should help them a lot in that mid to late game. Just a bit worried about the early game, though, for cCoils, as I imagine that this Geb will go to him. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ebog take Chronos and Hercules. That feels almost like something you might see from Splice or SK prioritizing the Hercules this early, but this gives them another aggressive support.
I like it, too, because you need that Excavate boulder damage for team fights, for the objective secures, but something we haven't seen very often is the Sun Wukong pick, especially this early in the draft. Normally, you want to save that later on.
It's so early that it makes me think there's a chance it might even be for Jumpah. I think we've seen him play this a couple times here and there. It could also, though, more likely be for Jarman in that short lane. We'll have to see as Zaxy gives another try on the Jing way.
Persephone, we're finally going to see it now in the console world, just to see the true potential of it coming through from Ebog now.
Well, because we've made such a big deal about the Persephone, there's no way it wins this game, right? We're guaranteed now to get a game 3 because we made a big deal about Persephone not being picked.
It was the caster's curse all along.
Yeah, that's what will have to happen here this time. But obviously Persephone is very strong right now, able to still do all her damage even when she dies. Not all of it, I mean that she has access to all of her abilities. It is reduced, though, while she's in that dead state. Able to get herself extra gold if she uses the plant when she backs. There's a ton of stuff Persephone can do.
Oh, absolutely. It's very difficult to really get away from her as well if you're going to be able to try to tower dive them. I'm expecting that to be the case. Nemesis tower dove Jarmangandr that last game.
Yeah.
Or sorry, vice versa. Ebog was tower diving Jarmangandr. So maybe it's time for them to continue that, this time with Persephone on their side.
And this time it's Olorun that doesn't seem to be getting much value. The Guan Yu comes in, likely for the jungle here for Ebog. And if there is an Olorun that comes up later, he's a pretty good answer to it, so maybe that's meant to act as a bit of a deterrent. But no, it's the Merlin this time, and I like it being on Nemesis. Nano had a really good game on this Merlin last time, so take that away from him. Though I would say with the Chronos Persephone already locked in, they probably weren't going to play it.
Yeah, I agree there, but it's going to be a good look regardless. Now, more damage over time with Serqet. I think that Osiris last pick wouldn't be too bad here for Ebog.
It means it won't be Wukong in the jungle, though.
Ah, you're right. Unless it's... No, it's Geb support, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So that means we won't be having any fun. Xing Chen, though, comes through, which means it is going to be the Guan Yu jungle, as we thought. The Xing Chen likely in the short lane then, and then Hercules support, I'd imagine.
Yeah, could switch up either way.
It certainly could, as we get ready to move into game number 2, Ebog and Nemesis. A close match between those up near the top of PS4NA. Still Finch and Tolly here, obviously. And Doug is the one that's bringing you all the action that you are enjoying. But it looks like Vultiee is doing this boots rush that did catch, I think it was Dignitas a bit off guard, skipping out on the Guardian's Blessing.
That's right, Obey Alliance up against Dignitas, Weaken and Mineral, neglected all the blessings in general. And it makes a little bit of sense from a Guardian's perspective if you have the damage as a Hercules does, utilizing that passive. He wants to get hit, but Jumpah, he just wants to farm. He's not going to hit the Hercules.
Well, he's got to try and stay away from Vultiee here right now, who's doing a lot of damage in the early game. Didn't get to the speed in time to delay it. But really, as Aggro has said multiple times, it's really not even so much about stripping away the buff. It's about delaying and harassing this enemy jungler, as they've done a great job of, and forcing him to split this farm. mattkoiz has to be here to split red to guarantee it.
He still has Blink, Vultiee, so he's going to chase Jumpah until the end of the world and not allow him to get any farm. Like, it's still delaying it. Like, the experience per minute coming through from Jumpah is still going to be lower of that of Spartan, unless Jarmangandr can deny this.
It's a good swap, Doug. I was just thinking the same thing. I wanted to follow along with Spartan as he comes over to harass the blue buff. And it looks like he did drop it. We weren't quite able to get a good look at it while it was on the ground. But Jarman didn't pick it up, so I assume that he stole it.
That's true. As a Sun Wukong, that's
right
going to hurt.
Corner,
That's going to hurt in the long run. yWaddle trying to waddle his way to pick that one up.
Indeed, Xing Chen and his gait, the way that he walks, is indeed odd for yWaddle as he picks up the blue buff, further confirming this one was confirmed by the Chaos side. But we can talk a little bit more about what we expect from Nano on this Persephone here this game. Her damage is so high. That ultimate is such a big control tool in these games as well.
And you can't even stay next to those plants because of the detonate damage. Even this early on, you got to respect that the lane clear is certainly going to be there. Like cCoils just taking pot shots from a safe distance. Like Nano can't really be touched right now, especially when you're also getting zoned by Vultiee that can easily pull and push you outside of your tower.
And now Spartan's going to take this opportunity to move into the jungle and strip some farm away. But yeah, Persephone, man, she controls so much space. She plants those seeds with the second ability, and then her basic attacks are the ones that pop them. And she pops them immediately, it's just some damage, and on the heal for her. If she waits a little bit longer, that's when the damage comes through, and then she waits all the way the full 24 seconds. It can get up and start chasing you as Vultiee is between the tier 1 and the tier 2. They want this speed buff.
And they're going to get it too. Great zoning. I don't think that they knew about it, but now once mattkoiz hears that ding, really understands what was the reasoning for that position. And honestly, against a Serqet, you got to be careful about even being by that tier 1, tier 2 tower because of the Cobra's Kiss. You're going to get closer and closer. You take a tier 2 tower shot this early on, I don't care what character you're playing, you're going to like take 33% of your health, if not more.
Pretty easily if you do get pulled into the tower. So Eboys riding a fine line. But I'm glad we're seeing this aggression. Remember in game 1, we didn't see much of that aggression at all into the enemy jungle. There was still plenty of fighting, there was still plenty of ganks, but it wasn't nearly as much about the invades as what you all might have been expecting. But this time, Eboys go back to that strat.
That's true. There were 4 kills in 3 minutes to start off game number 1, as there's probably been 4 invades in this 3 amount of minutes. Not able to strip away the blue buff 2 times in a row. Jarmangandr definitely needed that blue to stay relevant.
It is good for Nemesis to make sure they were there that time in bigger numbers, not just Jumpah, but some backup. Vultiee pulls Jumpah back in. Geb's shield was there. You could barely tell, but I promise there was a little bit of help there for Jumpah to keep him as healthy as they possibly could from that pressure.
Cleanses the stun and the slow on top of it from the Warrior's Will. Spartan not going to make it easy to even go for the pack camps. I don't know if Eboys has the timer for it, but they will catch him backing.
And I don't think Jumpah was ready for this one. Good Cobra's Kiss, though, that interrupts the Talu assault, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough. The blink is Jumpah finally makes his way out of there. That's good heads-up play.
Oh, that really was important to hit that Cobra's Kiss on the second one. And now he's just going to cancel out mattkoiz's back. Remember, his rollout was used to get a little bit closer.
Now mattkoiz could be in some trouble. Knock-up immune, and the body blocks are good here. Does make it into the rollout, but gets interrupted by the pull from Vultiee. Well played, but on his way here is Jumpah. If mattkoiz can survive for a bit, then the Cobra's Kiss will do exactly that. Buy some time for mattkoiz to make it out of there. Spartan knows at this point that he has to try and find something to make it worth, but they overcommitted.
Oh, the airstrike, not able to connect with that range. All 5 members made that rotation a possibility. Nemesis punishing out Spartan that had no mana at the very tail end, and Vultiee needed to hit that driving strike to confirm the kill onto mattkoiz. He missed it. He did hit the pull after the fact, but it was still too long to go for that kill before all the rotations from Nemesis.
Just took them, like you said, a little bit too long. That's just a good sequence from Jumpah there all in all, because when he backed, he found the Cobra's Kiss that kept him alive in the Talu assault. Then when he came in, he found the Cobra's Kiss that controlled both members. He had to get both of them to keep them from doing any more damage to cCoils. Just well done.
And that's going to be scary now if you're Zen, because you were not having a good time in game number 1 against Jing. And now this Jing on Zaxy got first blood. It's going to finish off the Hunter's Blessing stacks before you. It's going to finish off that Devil's Glove before you get the Pythax piece. So Zen needs some wards and vision and just play super safe in this long lane.
Yeah, Zaxy put in a ton of work for that first blood too, man. I mean, it just went to the right spot, if I'm being honest. He's that little bit ahead in terms of network, though, as a result from that first blood bonus. So Ebogs finally get punished for that over-aggression, but they're still really not even in that bad of a spot. Spartan is even, Vultiee is even, so is Nano. I mean, Zen's a bit ahead in experience.
And the thing is, Nemesis's draft is not really early game focused. They're not going to be the ones invading. They're the ones defending their own buffs. So that kind of rotation is a necessity to try to stop Ebog before the game gets a little bit out of hand.
Jumpah blink, but counter blinks there by Vultiee. Used the driving strike, avoids the shockwave, and now I don't know how you're gonna peel Spartan off when he's up on top of the Horus, trapped by the ultimate from Nano, but still mattkoiz makes it out. That's twice he's pulled off a Houdini with the Vanishing Act.
And able to blink away right as he was about to get Warrior's Will. Spartan regroups with his teammate, trying to do what they can to save him, saving Private Spartan as he walks away to safety.
I don't know if mattkoiz could be the target anymore, man. He manages to just kind of worm his way out of there every single time. Good use there from yWaddle to try and confirm this totem a coup, but it just will not work. Jarman able to take that one away for himself. But that was even with Nano committing the ultimate.
No, actually it did go to Ebog. We're looking at the totem of coup counter. 3-0 for the Chaos side's favor. Sometimes you just gotta use that ultimate. If you're not doing anything relevant on that solo lane, this totem comes up every 60 seconds. It's worth 125 collective team gold. And that's great use of cooldowns. Like, you're not using it defensively to survive. You're not using that cooldown offensively to get a kill. You don't need it to defend your own blue buff. So yeah, sure, use it to get your team 125 gold.
They'll certainly take it here at this point. Time and time again, the Chaos team has chosen to be aggressive, and Nemesis have been there to answer it back. The fight right there we just saw around mid-Harpy just a moment ago. The aggression way down into the Order side jungle where they were trying to kill mattkoiz, and he gets away there again. Usually killing Geb in the early game is not that much trouble. You're usually able to get away with it. But this time Ebog hadn't been able to do it, and mattkoiz might make it to the early game unscathed.
And he's not even that tanky. Only reinforced shoes. Guardian's Blessing about to be evolved now after one more minion. He's going to be working on that Gauntlet of Thebes momentarily. It's only going to get harder as the Geb increases the levels for the base protection, base health. The shield health on that Geb shield is an important factor.
And as you mentioned, it's Ebogs who want to be the aggressors here early, even more so than Nemesis. Nano didn't go a blessing, neither did Vultiee, or he eventually does get the Guardian's Bust in second, but not from the start. He's way behind in those stacks. They're going to need to make up for that as mattkoiz drops the Cataclysm, but Vultiee responds to the driving strike. They want mattkoiz here yet again, but it hasn't worked yet. Finally, they right past Wrongs with a kill.
Excavate going to kind of split the uprights there in the backline. Spartan going to get plucked away by Jarmangandr's early rotation.
It's flattened by the cudgel. Zachsy finds a kill on the Vultiee there as well, so 2 for 1 in Nemesis' favor. Yet again, going for mattkoiz doesn't work out, but at least they get the kill as yWaddle's rotation comes through to punish Jumpah.
2 for 2 thus far. Zen has rewind. This time will get it off despite the unsuccessful attempt in game number 1. cCoils is only 1 time rift away from Dev. Needs to worry about his positioning, but red buff will be secured. So Nemesis still aggressive, or sorry, Ebogs still aggressive, but Nemesis with a counter rotation. So important to stop Ebog before he gets too out of hand.
I liked what Zen was trying to do there, though, in that last fight. I think he was holding rewind so much because he wanted that kill on the cCoils, just couldn't find it, and does eventually have to pull the trigger and disengage with that rewind. So another scuffle here in the jungle, but this time Ebogs were able to do just enough with yWaddle's kind of late rotation to even the score back out, at least in terms of kills.
That's right. Both solo laners making an impact there, as this composition from both teams is definitely more late game focused, I think. We didn't really talk about Zen's passive that last game, but that 20-minute marker is when he started to do a lot of damage to the towers and phoenixes, even without the fire giant buff. It's just utilizing that passive and the accelerate on that 4th quadrant. He had 500 power, and then with the use of that accelerate with a 35% scaling, getting another 175 power on your basic attacks, felt pretty good there.
Oh, I don't know if we talked about Jarman with the Talaria boots in lane. We see this sometimes, especially if you don't go teleport, but he did go teleport here. That's going to help with his rotations, obviously help when he comes back from base as well. He is going to be missing out on some power, which you'd like to have there, but maybe won't hurt too bad.
Yeah, I like this idea if you don't have teleport,
Right.
but because you already do invest into it at level 1, I'm not too thrilled by the idea, simply because the scaling on Sun Wukong's abilities is respectable. It's not the highest in the world, but it's a short enough cooldown that you can just relentlessly spam at these squishy mages that don't have the protections. So by only having 10 physical power, but with MP5, sure, you're kind of lacking the burst damage that you would want to force certain members out of the equation.
Jumpah can rotate over to this as mattkoiz gets pulled back in, committing onto the Gap. Has hurt them before, and Vultiee catches some damage for it this time, courtesy of Zaxy. 4 members of Nemesis to defend the red buff this time, and Ebog would have to settle for kills on the back end. I don't even think they're going to get that. Spartan finds very little.
Not able to steal away any of those back camps, but now might have to use that ultimate defensively. Not going to get a basic attack there, so trading out ult for ulti. 20% CDR, though, on Jumpah, so heavily favoring the Serqet in that trade.
It did have to use the blink, though, I think, to get in range for the last breath of time. So Ebog should know as a team that they don't have to worry about the blink Serqet for another 100 seconds or so. That's the rewind, though, forced out from Zen, and Zaxy makes it over the wall with the airstrike. Everything's okay, but Ebog, maybe they have a chance to come back towards gold.
They should at least try it, knowing that they have the Excavate for the confirm on this level 7 Hercules, but instead gonna just play reset, allow the farming from Zen, trying to finish off what I'm assuming is gonna be the Pythax piece.
But look, Nano put a bunch of plants down around that Gold Fury. If they do want to come back here in 24 seconds, that's when he'll have that extra damage there. He can even flourish before then to accelerate it to that 3rd step from the second one, as Spartan, in some trouble, ran to Jarman at his speed.
Surprised Jarman didn't use that ultimate there, knowing that Spartan used the cavalry charge. There was no escape path from him. Could have at least forced out the blink from Spartan, but instead going to hold on to it now for a rainy day.
Jarman tries yet again on this blue buff and isn't able to get there. yWaddle defends his blue buff this time as well. It's actually Nemesis who have a couple members near the goal, but this is just to try and counter ward so they'll know what's going on the next time that Ebog come and stand nearby. But this is the thing I'm very interested in with Persephone. She has a limited number of plants she can put down, so they must be coming to make use of these soon.
Yeah, I think you can only have about 10 plants in total out on the field at the time. So as long as you can make this rotation as they're coming up, this would be a good window, especially with red buff being concentrated. Nemesis trying to defend it up against all 5.
See if they can force some cooldowns here, then head back towards that Gold Fury, but mattkoiz won't give him the chance. Blink Cataclysm, but that was Persephone damage, and the Persephone ult. Nano finds the kill there onto mattkoiz. Merlin damages by them a moment, but they can head back to Gold Fury, 3 ultimates down.
I like how the Excavate casually rolls back into the team fight where it matters the most there. I think that Jumpah ate the brunt of that damage as Jarmangandr really poking out Vultiee here. It's level 9 Hercules needing to sustain a little bit longer, so no flirting with the idea of Gold Fury despite a 5-on-4 advantage, allowing mattkoiz to respawn.
We said it already today, love can be scary, so maybe they don't want to flirt with the Gold Fury on that left-hand side. yWaddle will instead do some zoning here. But that was a nice fight. They have had some struggles, I would say, locking down mattkoiz earlier on this game, but these last 2 times have worked.
And that was because Nemesis tried to force something out of nothing.
You're right, it was Blink Cataclysm.
He saw an opportunity that doesn't present itself very often. When you can get 3 players in one Cataclysm, sometimes you just gotta go for it and hope your teammates have the necessary follow-up. Unfortunately for mattkoiz, didn't have that follow-up, but it's only gonna get better as the game progresses once mattkoiz gets tankier. It's
not a rule, but it definitely helps most times. Starting off with a 3-man Cataclysm wins your team's fights. So yeah, I don't think I could be too mad at mattkoiz for going for it. Just at that time, they weren't right in position to follow up on it. It's one of those things you do have to consider when you go in for the engage, as it costs him his life. But as you mentioned, Gold Fury still hasn't started, and when Nemesis is somewhat slower draft, I think they're fine with this pace.
They really are. This Jumpah trying to get Zen's cooldowns.
Zen has the Aegis, this buys him a moment, and the stun onto both. This is more than just time. That's the turnaround from Zen on the Chronos, saying hello to Zaxy and Jumpah.
He's not done yet. He wants to get off more poke damage, or at least bait Zaxy to get Vultiee closer for the flank of the driving strike, but instead will settle for the 1 kill and continue to farm. Could easily sustain now with his items. Lifesteal on the Pythax piece. He can use the Accelerate on that first quadrant for more sustain as well.
And remember, Jumpah went blink to get things started, so Zen knows that once he hits that CC, it's going to land. He also had the Jade Emperor's crown, so he felt comfortable fighting. And now they can head over to this Gold Fury and try and force Nemesis into a bad fight that can make use of those plants from earlier as well. But no, they'll just take the fight instead. mattkoiz goes right into the Cataclysm, but he's clearly the target of all this damage from Spartan.
A very easy kill after the Cataclysm. Now Zaxy forced to airstrike away defensively. Jarmangandr gonna get stunned away. Ebogs gonna have to reset.
And ultimate from Nano comes right onto Jarman. He'll use the ultimate for the CC immunity so that he can get away from Nano's ultimate. But Ebogs got the pick they wanted, didn't get gold though.
Did not get the Gold Fury, but this is something that they want, is to draw out the game to the late phase. Chronos passive, you're getting 5 power every 2 minutes already. A comfortable power spike of 40 just from that passive alone coming through from Zen, so he's going to want to wait it out. Obviously, Guan with more CDR is going to be nice as well. Blackthorn's Hammer completed. I want to see Spartan pick up a Genji's Guard for additional 10% CDR for a lot of MP5 to follow up. yWaddle working for a Void Stone so he can get Nano some more damage on his player damage chart, nearing the second.
Jarman, though, level 17 as opposed to yWaddle, who only just ticked over to 16. So Jarman's done a good job, I suppose, doing a little bit less rotating than yWaddle here so far, able to find himself a lead. As you mentioned earlier, the Totem Aku actually favored Ebogs, so a bit surprising that Jarman was able to find himself a nice lead in the solo lane. Zen actually was considering trying to start that Gold Fury, maybe just counter-warding, I think, over there, and we'll head back instead. Not going to pull that objective at this point.
Yeah, so we're probably going to be seeing the objective being pulled again, honestly, because mattkoiz has been a very easy target because of his under-leveled part, right? Like level 10
Sure.
Geb now still working on Gauntlet of Thebes is both support, so the more team fighting there is, the less stacking opportunities there are, but I don't think Ebogs necessarily care if Vultiee gets those stacks, if they can also shut down mattkoiz in the process.
Ebogs don't have Nano here. They might not be looking to start this just yet, and really neither a Nemesis roll out and gets him on out of there. Indeed, they're ready for this disengage. Now they can start to move back in. All 5 members of Ebogs here this time.
Yeah, yWaddle conceding 1 wave under that solo tower as Jarmangandr does have teleport available. Going to need to make his presence felt sooner rather than later. Teleporting to the mid lane, picking up a hide of the Urchin as well.
This is nice stuff. They can force some cooldowns out of Zaxy before this fight starts, but Zaxy has the moves, avoids the stun and the pull and the driving strike as well.
The juke shoes are on from Zaxy, tapping all over his competition there. Zen and Vultiee in conjunction couldn't really make it happen there, and that's a shame because they had the Hunter right where they wanted him, between a rock and a hard place.
Just got to make sure you're executing there. They can hit the wider Geb model a little bit easier, though, as Vultiee grabs mattkoiz, but he takes more damage from Zaxy than Vultiee was able to deal out, so that one didn't quite work for Nemesis that time, as Vultiee gets pulled back in towards the damage from the rest of Nemesis, able to shrug it off for the most part.
Coils now going to get zoned away. Actually, it's Jumpah going to start things off as yWaddle gets pulled in. He is ticking with the last breath.
He is trying to pull one member back, but Jarman's the one that gets the kill credit. yWaddle falls first. Spartan, though, able to hunt down Jumpah underneath the tier 1 tower. They'll head back for the collapse onto Jarman and force him up into the somersault cloud.
I don't expect him to dive 1v3, but as I say that, he does. mattkoiz going to save him with a shield momentarily now, but still needing to reset is Ebogs. They need to get the heals off from Spartan.
That's the flicker down from cCoils, though. That's why Spartan was going in so aggressive, but he was too far by himself. Isn't going to be able to find another kill. This has been a long fight that has really only netted 2 kills.
And Zaxy's now back with full health because of that Jing Wei passive. It is a 4-on-4, keep in mind. yWaddle's gone with Jumpah.
Nano still is the target, but Jarman gets pulled back in. He was in the Tiger stun, trying to see if he can clean up that kill into Nano right away, but instead gets caught out by Vultiee. Some nice peel there. Ebogs takes a moment to breathe and reset. That was a long, drawn-out fight. Only really net 2 kills, no Gold Fury or anything like that.
yWaddle is back now with the blink available. Spartan taking a whole bunch of damage from cCoils.
Wow, and cCoils gets the kill there, too. That is so unfortunate for Spartan that cCoils is able to wrap around and find him at the red buff by himself. And Nemesis now can start the Gold Fury. It got a really critical kill into that Guan Yu, and no one's around to defend.
yWaddle trying to make his way over to this objective,
Can't
but
get in.
instead he doesn't know actually about it. The vision control is all Nemesis.
And And they grab the Gold Fury there. Disappointing if you're Ebog. That entire sequence really nets them nothing. And they spent so much time on the left-hand side of the map. So did Nemesis, I suppose. So it's not as if someone was farming when they weren't. But still, they would have loved that Gold Fury.
If I'm Spartan in that last little skirmish and I see how quickly I fell to cCoils, I'm like, man, if only I had a Genji's guard there for the magical protection. He's going for a very glass cannon style. It's still going to give him the 10% CDR, but you have to respect your opposition. cCoils can safely throw away Blizzard. Now, as good as Spartan has been at avoiding certain abilities, I like the way he uses Warrior's Will to avoid the Cataclysm, you're not always going to avoid the damage over time from cCoils that just drops a Blizzard or drops the Fire.
So Spartan either going to need to juke better, or pick spots better, or build into some defense. Those are really the only few options that are available to him as Nemesis. They've actually reclaimed a small lead for themselves, but it's Ebog who are pulling the Pyromancer. Jarman are right here nearby, though, so this will not be a secret. Nemesis will show up in full force to defend.
On the backside is yWaddle. He's looking for some beads burning. If he can get it, at least. Gonna prevent that as Jarmangandr. Fighting over Pyromancer this late in the game. Risky when you don't have a clear-cut advantage for either side, but it seems that Ebog want to force the fight on their terms.
They're going to try and grab yWaddle and burn him quickly if they can. Ebog have already gotten the Pyromancer, though, so they're fine with this trade. mattkoiz gets pulled in, and everyone's tethered there by the ultimate coming out from Nano, just trying to set up for the disengage, because it looks like Ebog wants to leave, but Jumpah blinks in. Cobra's Kiss onto yWaddle, but for the most part, Ebog are out. It's just Zen who's left lagging.
Still has Rewind if he wants to get in there for the re-engage, but cCoils gonna force that Rewind, actually. Zaxy very healthy now on the Jing way. Could even force out the Fire Giant, seeing how low Ebog is.
But still, playing it slower, Nemesis at this point. They just don't have the benefit of that overhead view to make that call to go to FG. Instead, it looks like they want to group and grab this tier 1 in mid, but Ebog's still a bit set. They've got Vultiee here, Boulder to clear the wave and make this push harder. Nano here as well to try and push out some damage. Nemesis can't force down the tower.
Not quite yet, especially with Spartan with the healing. And now yWaddle gonna use this opportunity to split push as a Xing Chen for the tier 2 tower.
47 damage a swing. It's mostly the minions doing the work at this point. On his way is Jumpah, but I don't think he's gonna make it in time. I think yWaddle, a Xing Chen no less, has gotten that tower.
He just axed his way right down the bark of that tree. Couldn't stand for much longer. It doesn't matter if it's 47 damage or not. Fire Giant now not going to be looked at yet by either team. Still, a nice little healthy advantage for Ebog with that 1,500 gold.
Oh no, yWaddle getting picked there. That's so unnecessary. Nemesis grab a nice pick, but they're really not in position to try and pull this FG, even in a 5v4. Maybe this tier 1 tower here yet again, as they do have Zaxy and Jumpah all nearby, grouping up in mid. But Jumpah's pushed forward, and he might get caught. But no, can't find anything with the driving strike there. Jumpah makes it out.
Is Jumpah playing a Serqet?
Yes.
So he is safe 99% of the time.
You're exactly right. mattkoiz goes in to get things started with that Cataclysm. Spartan already down quite low. Jarman takes to the sky with the Somersault Cloud. He wants Zen, goes into the Ox form for the knockup, and now he's stuck underneath the tier 1. But he's happy to tank it. The rest of the team just shreds it down.
Still a 5-on-4 for Nemesis, as yWaddle not due to respawn for 5 more seconds, but they took way too much damage, Finch. I think that they're going to get chased down now.
Ebog considering it, but not really ready to step onto the gas just yet, despite some relatively low health bars on the side of Nemesis. mattkoiz should be out of there. A-okay.
I thought for a second that yWaddle and Co are going to make their way towards mattkoiz, but he was like very low health, right? Like you would think like he's rolling out. Go get him. Catch the rolling rock. What's that one competition where it's like the rolling cheese down the hill and everybody's like trying to catch the cheese?
Huh? Is that a thing?
Somewhere in Europe. I'm sure Hindu Man listening to this can share more information than I can, but there is literally a competition where you are trying to catch a rolling block of cheese down a hill, and people will do it and roll it down with it, and most people...
Is it like wrapped up? I don't know if I'd want the cheese anymore after all that.
It's
okay,
wrapped up.
I got you. Okay, maybe I can see that.
And like, yeah, most people like break bones trying to do it. Apparently it's a British thing.
Apparently, if we just trust production on everything, yeah, then maybe they would know.
Hey, it's Tyler the Creator we're talking about here.
He does, in a way, create this broadcast for you guys, so I suppose that is true. Fury now respawning, a Nemesis in perfect position to at least start this. Blink, Cataclysm, Vultiee, they want to pick him here quickly. The damage coming out from this Merlin's way too strong, but he gets the heal with the mitigate wounds. He survives, and now suddenly it's Spartan onto the back line. He calls in the Horus and starts looking for damage, but look at that turnaround burst.
Oh yeah, he needed to get on out of there. Got the horses way in the back now. It's the stun onto Jarmangandr. The chase down now, last breath onto Spartan. Basic attack not even required.
Jumpah gets the kill there, so they finally take care of the opposing jungler. Vultiee, though, pushes past all this damage to the Merlin, sends the boulder, but cCoils avoids that. Ebog might have committed to a poor fight here. Jumpah is able to take down Nano, but Nano, remember, can keep using his damage, but Jumpah doesn't care. He goes right for Vultiee.
Still using the passive is Nano trying to do whatever he can. Finally will die, and without any members, Nemesis, unscathed in the player count, should be able to go for this Fury.
And this is something worth considering, I would say, around new gods. Even though Persephone is strong, you don't necessarily know how good your opposition is at this new pick yet. Maybe Nemesis were saying they didn't trust Nano to be that good of a Persephone, and so far, it hasn't been tremendously impactful.
Not quite yet, I would say. There was a lot of respect given to Nano, not really playing too aggressively against her. The positioning that he created, though, was a lot in the early to mid game. They just didn't really use, I think, the Persephone plans to its fullest potential.
I think I agree. Zaxy yet again having a monster game, though, on this Jing way. 20,000 player damage, far and away the most here in this game. 3-0-2, level 20, and very nearly full build as well. He went Executioner Kin size. We'll see if he does want to add a Deathbringer in that final slot once he sells off the Hunter's Blessing, but he's had a great game.
Very traditional build in a world where there's no Thorns, no Height of Nemi Alliance to really punish this critical strike build, especially when Jingwei has already built into it her kit, the explosive bolts, and the splash attack damage, as Ebog focus on different things. They're looking at blinks, they're looking at the shells as well.
Ebog, though, still in this game, only down 3,000 gold at this point. This has been such a close match. Only 15 kills in 27 minutes. There's been a lot of skirmishes, but no kills, as cCoils wants to flicker in for the steal, and Pyromancer gets reset.
Ooh, not going to be able to get that steal, but we'll get mattkoiz's Cataclysm. Nice little double stun coming through from Zen. Nano trying to get out of danger. They're using that ultimate. Good Aegis to absorb the basic.
And that has stopped a lot of Nemesis from coming in to punish, but now they should finally be able to flourish, though. Allows the reposition at Zaxy. His life is so important here. He has to find a way to survive. I don't know if Waddle knows. Way in the back line, Aegis bought him a moment, and Vultiee finally gets the kill.
With the excavate, nonetheless, it's a full-on disengage from Nemesis. Ebog going to continue to go for the objective. Look at Zen. He wants the Fire Giant.
Over here, fellas, Zen's trying to pull everyone on over. He starts it up right away and starts to swing, but he should leash this as soon as everyone else gets there so he can get right back to doing his full damage. They have multiple members here, all four. They'll send Waddle out to zone. cCoils and Jarmangandr are here, though. They've got great steal potential.
It is so low. Finch, Zen is still on it. Spartan is basically a spectator on the left side.
Yeah, Zen feels like the only one that believes in this Fire Giant push at this point here. It's still low. It's still being held right now by Vultiee. Zen comes back in to try and confirm, but Nemesis strip it away. Yet again, this fight around the Fire Giant wasn't clean for Ebog at all. Cataclysm from mattkoiz finds very little. They should be able to collapse now on Vultiee.
No, Vultiee is going to go down as well as Nemesis walk away like bandits. Zaxy now respawns, so he's going to be able to use that passive to get closer to start plucking away at the tier 2 towers.
Nemesis get in there and steal that Fire Giant. That is such a big deal, and they lose Vultiee and Zen on the backside of it. Spartan now has to come all the way back to regroup with Nano and with Waddle, but Nemesis should have control. 6K up in gold and the FG on everyone but Zaxy, but they can make plays.
Ambitious call coming through from Ebog.
Yeah.
I kind of respect the call, but the problem was the positioning of the other members outside of Zen. You could see where Zen's intentions were. He started that Fire Giant first. He knew that there was no time to waste, and he was correct in doing so. But the problem was the rest of Nemesis, or the rest of Ebog, can't keep up with the damage from this Fire Giant. This Guan Yu heal getting anti-healed by the Fire Giant makes it harder to really tank it. And Chronos at this stage of the game with that build of the Jade Emperor's Crown is not adding to his actual damage numbers. That penetration with Obsidian Shard would have went a long way for that objective.
Nano is in some trouble yet again. He's been found underneath the mid tier 2 tower. The last breath poison is ticking, but Nano has just barely survived all the way through to make it back out. But Tole, I mean, we say it all the time. I don't think it does you any good to have one person doing the right call. You need everyone there. Zen seemed way committed to the Fire Giant when no one else was, as mid tier 2 falls, and Zaxy threatens the left Phoenix almost by himself.
He definitely does. I'm going to avoid that time stop. The goal was not to get the Phoenix, but it was to create a distraction while the rest of his teammates got the tier 2 in mid.
He'd have been happy to take it if eBug didn't come over there, but they did, so the tier 2 goes down in middle. Nemesis make the left side Phoenix the most valuable Phoenix, their target, and they're in already. mattkoiz Blink Cataclysm onto 3, and Zen's already low. Gets the rewind off in time, though, as Spartan starts the dive onto the backside. That forces all of Nemesis to come back to answer and keeps the Phoenix alive.
Still going to try to go for round 2. A very healthy Phoenix, and now without the ultimate coming from Spartan, going to be harder to survive and keep it up and running unless yWaddle can do something.
Goes in with a Whirlwind of Rage and Steel and only pulls in mattkoiz. yWaddle is already exploding. That must have been Zaxy damage, and mattkoiz got the last hit. Original Spartan does get back underneath the mid Phoenix as Nano gets 1 kill into mattkoiz, but Jumpah wants to re-engage and Vultiee drops.
Jarmangandr with a nice stun followed up by Jumpah. Now Spartan could be in a little bit of trouble. Great DPS from Jumpah as he takes the 1v1. Jarmangandr is tethered now, trying to get away as he can from the ultimate. Airstrike used by Zaxy just to unbreak that little leash on top of himself. With mattkoiz dead, left side Phoenix still stands.
Jumpah goes back in but gets caught by that stop time. Is able to make his way back out of there though with the ambush, but Eboys Gone Wild ready to push up.
Yeah, cCoils is in trouble here. Jarmangandr needs to do whatever he can to keep his mid laner alive. Spartan was thinking about going in.
Tiger
Avoids the Tiger stun just momentarily.
This is a lot of fighting that's happening here, and at this point the Phoenix Siege no longer really seems realistic, so just some scuffles that are happening. I mean, Nemesis can't quite get that left Phoenix. A good defense from Eboys.
Really was a good engage as well from mattkoiz. I think he hits 4 members with a Cataclysm, but the rest of his teammates only found 1 pick there. I believe it was onto Vultiee in the early exchanges. Spartan created a good distraction.
Right.
By going into the back line, Zaxy didn't get off the DPS that he was hoping to do with the Jing. Also, he was dead during the Fire Giant steal, so he didn't get the buff to actually do extra damage to that structure.
And I think that's actually a pretty relevant point there. If Zaxy had a little bit of extra damage that he was doing that Phoenix, maybe they get it. Instead, Eboys limit the effectiveness of that Fire Giant. Nemesis still get a tremendous lead off it. They nearly doubled it up to 12,000 off the back of that push, and so they should be in a strong position to get this next FG and Siege again. But Eboys keep that Phoenix up so they can maybe be there for the Phoenix fight or for the Fire Giant fight if they want.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse and worse, like I was mentioning before. Eboys is a late game composition. Spartan needs to get off more heals, but he's not going for a heal-focused build with MP5 and cooldown reduction that you would expect.
Instead, yWaddle in some trouble here early on around the FG. Jumpah does get stunned out. That should help the disengage here from Eboys, even with all this damage from cCoils. But look where Spartan is. He might try and catch out Jarman. Nope, just the regroup with the squad.
Just going to zone out, hoping Nemesis can do something around this Fire Giant pit. Jarmangandr going to burn away now. Creating some space is Nano with the plants, respecting Vultiee's potential to pull and push.
They were grouping behind that rock for a moment as they wanted to catch Eboys off guard, but no, instead, Jumpah goes right for Original here to the side. mattkoiz Blink Cataclysm forces him into the ultimate. That is a lot committed for just 1 Original Spartan. They'll turn around and commit the same sin here onto Jarman, who responds with the Somersault Cloud and then jumps in aggressively Whirlwind of Rage and Steel to bring Jarman back underneath the tier 2, but I mean, it's still a Sun Wukong.
It is still a Sun Wukong. Gets the Gap Shield to avoid the time stop being thrown out by Zen as they're trying to regroup now and go for another objective. A very risky play to expend a Cataclysm on a solo Guan Yu. I don't think a Guan Yu by himself is that big of a threat to throw out a huge AoE ultimate like that.
wasn't even enough for them to get the kill, so they can't quite start to pull the Fire Giant. They'll have to settle for Pyromancer as we approach 35 minutes here into this contest. Eboys continuing to buy themselves times to get items online, to come back in and contest. Even a Spectral there for yWaddle as they kick this fight off. Vultiee, the early target, but mattkoiz finds a Cataclysm on the yWaddle. See if the Spectral helps him there. He does jump away.
Just narrowly, as Nano's also going to dash away from Jarmangandr. Keep in mind, Spartan was not here to start this fight, but he's here now maybe to close it out.
Jarman goes into the bird form to disengage. Ambush from Jumpah to disengage. Looks like Nemesis are fully on the disengage. They start to fall back. I wonder how privy to this information, though, Eboys are. They just don't have that much warding down there. They really don't know what Nemesis are up to.
This little back and forth skirmish between Eboys and Nemesis reminds me of two crabs in a 1v1 duel.
On the beach?
Yeah, like on the beach that are just constantly like circling around each other with their pincers, just like...
Yeah.
Come
like,
at me, bruh.
If they can only move sideways, they'll never catch up to each other. It feels like that here right now as Nemesis
Pretty
and
much.
Eboys having trouble getting a definitive pick onto the other one. I do think the Kiris have done a good job staying in the back line. Zachsy and cCoils have been relatively safe. They've only have one death between the two of them. Nano and Zen have also been relatively safe here so far. And neither team can full-on commit to the tank well enough.
I agree. It's all about finding the poke onto the tanks, maybe getting them out of position, and there's so much displacement between both of these teams. Last Breath, the Hercules pull, and the push. yWaddle's Whirlwind of Rage and Steel.
Spartan takes some damage here yet again, but does manage to fall back. Relics are up for most people on the side of Nemesis, but no beads for Zen. He could be in trouble, but it's Vultiee that they managed to catch out with their first trap. In comes the ultimate from Nano, and it does keep a couple of members tied to that rock, but it just does not do enough. Nano has dropped. He is in that spectral form trying to do some damage, but Jarman tanks through it all, and Eboys are sent running.
Nano didn't even have enough seeds to get the revive off. He's going to
go.
drop down very fast. Taking a lot of damage is Nemesis. Forced to retreat now as Jarmangandr did go back to the fountain. His teleport is available, so he'll be here now for this Fire Giant. 5-on-3 for Nemesis.
And Eboys are going to have a very difficult time contesting this now. At this point, Nemesis should be able to start up this Fire Giant and feel confident about it. The only problem is they're missing most of their ultimates. It's just going to be mattkoiz, maybe with the Cataclysm in time, depending on how long this goes.
Jumpah as well with the last breath. Look for him. yWaddle going to get stunned on the backhand side from Jarmangandr. mattkoiz going to go in, knock up into the Kata, looking for Zen.
And Zen should be in a whole heap of trouble here. Does get the rewind off, and he gets way to the back end of the fight. Zachsy, though, gets a Geb shield so he can keep right on fighting through. Original Spartan and yWaddle are stuck in between the flames coming out from cCoils as Jarman finds that kill. But yet again, they've stalled out Nemesis on this FG.
Oh no, Jarmangandr doesn't get stunned out. Beats from cCoils. yWaddle's going to go down as well. And welcome to the Geb late game. mattkoiz saving players on his team and finding the kills.
It's been a good game from him as well. Even despite some extra focus in that early game, mattkoiz has stayed relevant all game long. And Fire Giant does get pulled yet again. Vultiee on his way, Zen on his way too. But it'll be so difficult for them to be able to get there and impact this. Vultiee does not have the ultimate. He is just going to go for trying to peel them off the objective.
Ooh, Jumpah here gets off the Cobra's Kiss. Death
Giant
Bane. Last breath not available.
Cataclysm stops him out. The ultimate from Nano doesn't make it into the pit, and Nemesis get the Fire Giant objective, and Vultiee is going to fall as well to cCoils' pressure.
Just a little too far overextended. Couldn't make anything happen there. Great chain CC from Nemesis, preventing the Excavate from ever coming out in the first place.
And Nano's in some trouble, knocked up even inside the Aegis Flourish, but the ambush from Jumpah punishes him, and Nano is sent back to the grave the right way this time. They'll grab the Tier 2 tower over in solo as well.
And this could be the final siege. yWaddle just now respawning. Nano and Vultiee still dead for at least 30 seconds.
Right side Phoenix starting to melt as well. Zachsy's damage proves too much. Zen can't find the stun either, so Jumpah gets to keep up his shenanigans. That forces Zen into the rewind. yWaddle only has cCoils as he pulls him back in, but another good Geb shield from cCoils.
And also the Aegis from cCoils is going to buy him a moment there. Spartan goes down very quickly to Jumpah's damage.
This should be it.
Great Cobra's Kiss out of him. The Titan is now exposed.
Cataclysm to stun both of them. Zachsy gets Zen. Horrific Emblem comes out, and that's the full-on deicide Jumpah Divine. And that is game number 2. We're going into a game 3 as Nemesis tie up the set.
You can never count out Nemesis here, honestly. They have been a team to be reckoned with since Phase 1, and even being down 0-1 in this game, they know what it takes to come back mentally.
They certainly do, man. 40 minutes it took to close this game out, and there there were some times, I think, where the fights probably could have been cleaner here for Nemesis, but sometimes you got to win the dirty fights too, and that's exactly what they did here.
It was just a battle for perseverance between mattkoiz's Gap Shields and the healing from Spartan. I'm not in love with Spartan's build. Very glass cannon style with the Heart Seeker. Should have been a Genji's guard. He needed a way to survive against cCoils damage, even some of the damage coming through from mattkoiz, and desperately needed MP5 to keep up the healing. Like, to only have 7,400 healing in 40 minutes of play, I don't care how much anti-healing Nemesis have, that's very low on the Guan Yu radar.
I also don't think that Nano was ready to play this Persephone just yet. It just never felt like he had the ultimates or the positioning with those seeds to would expect it from the Persephone. I mean, remember, it doesn't get picked or banned in Game 1, and in Game 2, I think they do it 4th overalls where they pick it, something like that. It wasn't prioritized. I'm wondering if maybe they weren't ready.
It doesn't seem that way, but still, despite all that, once the dust settles, we're going to Game 3.
You're exactly right. 1-1 here in this set. I can't imagine you'd want to go anywhere. The conclusion after this break.
INAP, powering the control room for the SMITE Console League.
The darkness threatened to overcome our light. But a glimmer of hope escaped the shadows of the underworld. The messenger arrived here at the Olorun River, my home. I will not abandon those in need. The waters are patient and cleansing. My allies will know the strength of the tides, and our enemies will fear the flood.
Welcome back to the Console League for the exciting conclusion of Nemesis versus Ebogs. We are in PS4 NA. My name is Finch, and I'm joined by Anatoly, Alex, Sayanak, and Toly. This has been such a back-and-forth set here. Even within the individual games, it's hard to call how this is going to go.
Game 1, not super long, but Game 2 definitely was.
Yeah.
Nemesis tried to crawl their way back into it, successful in doing so. I love the plays from mattkoiz on the get with the first pick, but I don't see how Ebogs can let that go in Game 3.
I agree, and I don't know if Nemesis have to ban the Persephone either after what we saw in that game either.
Sure.
I think they might have had the right read here so far about whether or not it was even worth having to ban it here up against Ebogs. So that was their chance to kind of prove them wrong, and I don't know they necessarily rose up to that level.
Yeah, I'm not sure, as we already understood
That's
the
gotta
true
happen, though.
power of the percent damage of this AoE ultimate. mattkoiz loves this pick, and Game 2 shows the true power of it.
I think he had some really great Geb shields there that game, and he was the main initiator for Nemesis as well, so you just got to take that one off the table. So I have to deal with it again. Nemesis have banned this Morrigan every game here so far, so it looks like they're not adjusting the picks and bans too much so far, especially after coming off a win.
Yeah, I think that we're going to probably see the Sed or the Habwa bans coming out of them, similar to Games 1 and 2. As Ebogs, they banned away the Hel, the Odin, and the Thor, so they might leave the Thor open for themselves if they want.
And see if they can force Nemesis to ban it here, which they likely will, I'd imagine. Though they might want to try and get it back around. Jumpah has a nasty Thor, and if Ebogs do pass it because there's something else particularly tempting out there, then maybe Nemesis can get it themselves. So they got to ban the set. That makes a ton of sense to me. I'm right there with them on that one. Now it's a question of do Ebogs want the Isis or the Thor here in those spots, because those are two highly priority picks, and they'll take the Thor.
We saw what the Thor did in the PS4 EU side of things.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
One
scary
spin for
game.
99% or so.
Yeah. A Thor that gets ahead stays ahead.
I agree. Merlin comes in for Nemesis, and I think this one almost feels like another ban. It's obviously going to be very strong for them, but Nano, the only game where he's looked good to me was on that Merlin, so take that away from him so we can't play it this time. And they'll grab the Chronos.
Ooh.
My only problem here is that Zaxy's been lights out on the Nemesis all day.
Yeah, very successful on the Jing Wei.
Yes,
so
yeah.
Zen was getting soloed a couple times in game number 1, had an awkward build with a Jade Emperor's Crown in game 2 that hurt his DPS. I think that if he had an offensive item in that slot, they might have been able to burn down the Fire Giant quick enough that wouldn't have given Nemesis the comeback potential.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure Zaxy can play whatever he wants to at a really high level. It's just that if he's already in a rhythm on the Jing Wei, I don't see any reason to disrupt it. But they take the Chronos and the Merlin for themselves instead of giving either one of those picks up over to Ebogs. So it does certainly make some sense. Olorun and Kumbhakarna come in at a ton of control between the Sanctified Field and the Kumbha, and some good late game damage.
So picking the Khepri, which is another defensive support, and to kind of keep it a better pick, they're going to ban away one Execute on the Achilles. With a jungler already locked in, more than likely a jungler for Thor, they don't have to ban away the Alquang or even the Thanatos, so they're just going to go for the Hunter instead.
Well, clearly Jing Wei's still on the mind of Nemesis. If they can't pick it for Zaxy, then you sure can't either. They banned that one away from Ebogs. The Amaterasu being banned out here, and I think this is actually a pretty heads-up ban from Ebogs. You don't want to let this Amaterasu into the solo lane come out. So instead it'll be the Chaac. Instead of speeding themselves up, they'll slow you down, I suppose.
Also, the attack speed reduction is good inside that healing rain. We're going to probably see that control a lot of space. Even inside the Sanctified Field, you're going to get slowed quite heavily, as Jarmangandr is a good pick for Ebogs. I like the dive potential. You got Anvil of Dawn, you got the World Serpent, and then you have the Blink Yawn from the Kumbha.
And now you add this Ullr into the mix, and this does give them a good deal of early to mid-game presence between this Kumbhakarna, the Thor, and the Ullr. That's pretty scary if you're on the side of Nemesis. But what better way to answer back to early to mid-game pressure than Ratatoskr? So there you go. They've got their own powerhouse in that exact same stage of the game.
Global versus global. Thor versus Ratatoskr. Nemesis versus Ebogs in game number 3. It's really a nail-biter here in PS4 NA.
It's so close. It's hard to think that you could ask for much more than what you've gotten here out of PS4 NA today, at least in terms of how close these games are, and I imagine that will continue as we move in to game number 3. The decider matchup here. Someone has to win.
Someone's going to be
Some
out.
novelty analysis there.
I like that.
I thought of that myself.
It's definitely going to shift the standings.
I think that there's a really good chance that at the end of this, someone will have a win and someone will have a loss.
Vultiee this time around not going to be going for the no Guardian's Blessing start, as he wants to make sure he keeps up with the GPM on this Kumbhakarna mattkoiz, following the same direction there.
yWaddle already taking a good deal of damage from Jarman here over in the right lane. I mean, that's one thing that Chaac certainly does. If you build him a bit more bruisery, his damage really isn't anything to scoff at. I find myself forced to admit the straight-up knock-up on Stormcall as well gives him a good deal more utility. More and more, I'm starting to like this Chaac.
It's a really short cooldown. As long as you can utilize that passive, shaving off 2 seconds from your next ability is never a bad thing, right? So even without blue buffs, if hypothetically you lose every single blue buff, you are still staying in the lane.
Vultiee still manages to get the root off because of the delay on that stun there from Zachsy, so he continues to be chased. But there's the abduct from mattkoiz that bails Zachsy out, and he holds on to his beads.
Still a little bit of pressure there. It's a natural dueling now.
That's right, yeah.
It's a 2-on-2 in the long lane. Zachsy versus Zen, no longer a 1v1 boxing match for the moment.
It's nice to see a little bit of the old school happening over there, the way it was intended, perhaps, way back when, as Jumpah is hanging out there with cCoils in the middle lane. And you know, I talked about a little bit towards the beginning that I thought that it'll be a lot between Spartan and Jumpah on the Ratatoskr and the Thor. People compare them so often because they can do similar things. That's going to be the matchup, I think, to watch.
Definitely going to be the case, as early game should favor Jumpah, knowing that he'll upgrade the A core, now having the tier 2, going to be upgrading that momentarily, probably less than the next minute to get that tier 3, whereas Spartan needs to get a lot of physical power with that scaling.
You're right. I mean, Jumpah won't have to back for that timing either, so he should be able to have a small window there where he's more impactful. Nano lurking here in the jungle on this Ullr, but no one is rotating away, so he'll have to full-on gank, and I think that might be the plan here. They're positioning far enough back, now with the blink in, and there's Nano waiting with the axe. mattkoiz wasn't ready. First blood for Ebog.
Patience working out here, because it is a virtue for Ebog. I like the play. Nano playing the Ullr. I think this is the first time we're seeing a Hunter for the set, actually, in mid lane at the very least, to make this kind of a play. And to make it outside of your lane. Spartan even covering the wave to make sure it's not going to go into the abyss.
Yeah, he will get some of the farm. I am still a bit surprised he let it come all the way in, but in the end, it shouldn't be too big of a deal in either direction. Nano goes and grabs his red buff and the mid harpies on the left side and should be here for at least some of this wave.
Trades out 1-for-1 on the mid camps as Nano.
Jump.
No
he
fear.
Must not have had it,
no,
right?
No fear whatsoever. No, he definitely had it there, but instead he gets abducted, tries to kind of wait out all the damage until he realized, okay, this is lethal threat now.
And he ends up having to use the beads. I don't know. Maybe Nano comes away from that one in the spot that he wants to be. Jumpah has now finished his acorn, as you were alluding to. That means that he will be running around even slightly faster than full-on boots and ready to start rocking and rolling. It's a pretty big power spike for this rat, even pre-level 5, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something from him soon.
Just look at the stacking differential of the Assassin's Blessing. 18 versus 31 now. It's just because of that mobility. Also, Spartan did have to cover the mid-wave, unfortunately, so it did slow down his timing window ever so slightly. As Jumpah doesn't have the timing window on the speed buff, but with that ward now, he'll be aware of when that speed buff will respawn.
If he has reason to believe that Spartan cleared reasonably close to when he cleared, you can always use your own speed buff as a good indicator of when that's going to be up. But instead, this ward should make up for any variations on that timings and give him a good idea if Spartan's there right at the beginning, so he can go steal.
Surprised yWaddle used that ultimate there without Jumpah or Jarmangandr using the ultimate. Last time I did say, like, okay, in a 1v1 and you're fighting for the Totem of Q, you can use your ultimate, but against a global pressure jungler, you might want World Serpent to get away.
That's a good point. You could be under siege really at any moment. I was just saying this is the timing when we might see some action there from Jumpah, but both of our junglers grab their own speed buffs, which means that ward doesn't give too much information away.
It kind of shows where the Thor's going afterwards. He kind of looped around to the left-hand side, so I think that the long lane now out of Nemesis needs to be aware that the Thor could gank that left side at any moment.
Gives them at least some information. There's the epic uppercut from Vultiee. The axe is right there waiting. He does have time to get the Scarab's Blessing off on himself. The wall not perfectly positioned, but they should still be able to get the kill anyway. Nano grabs it, but now Vultee's getting a little bit of backup. Jumpah can't commit, and as long as Spartan's out, this is a good fight for Ebog.
And that's all that mattered for Ebog. They find one kill and they disengage. It would have been very risky trying to go onto Vultiee for the return kill because of that Kumbhakarna passive, needing about 8 basic attacks to stick around while Nano and Spartan has their way with you. No, thank you.
sound like a particularly enticing trade, and Ebog get away in that early game with 2 picks there now, and both have centered around Nano here on this Ullr, and I like this so much more. I think it was on the Merlin in Game 1, and then the Persephone there in Game 2, and that Game 2 performance left a lot to be desired, but Game 1 and Game 3 now for him are looking much better.
Oh, I definitely agree with you. This Ullr, with 2 kills thus far, he's very close to finishing off Transcendence, goes for the Warrior Tabite to get extra physical power with the scaling of abilities, paired up with Vultiee now to look for those back camp invades. This is one aggressive Ullr that needs momentum to still make the plays in the mid game.
Nano has found mattkoiz, but the Abduct allows him to reposition. Jumpah can contest these mid-harpies on the right-hand side, and he'll do a little bit more of the contest. He grabs both of them for Nemesis.
Take what you can get, honestly, as you're not getting the kills, but you're at least getting the farm. Just now hitting level 7 is Spartan. Jumpah's been level 7 for a long time. He's actually 1 stack away from evolving that Assassin's Blessing, which is now completed after his own speed buff, but we haven't seen Jumpah being the one to force off these fights. It's actually Spartan that started it off first.
I mean, we said before, where that timing on the Acorn, we might see this Ratatoskr start to, to act in the early game, but instead he didn't do much of that at all. A bit surprising. Totally, you said just now, take what you can get. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
If someone on Halloween leaves a bowl of candy out and it says, just take one, do you just take the one, Totally, or do you take what you can get?
It depends what kind of candy's out
If
there.
it's a good one, you would take more than one, you deviant? What kind of candy is good enough where you would take more than one?
Like a little fun-sized Snickers.
Snickers, I'd be tempted. I get what you're saying there.
Peanut M&Ms.
You have to take one, though, so society stays intact, Soli. You can't.
You're saying
disobey the
society is
sign?
crumbling for me taking more than one?
Yes, because then when I get there later, it's an empty bowl with a sign.
Yeah, but there's so many houses, Fish.
That's right. You can go make up for that somewhere else. Looks like a brief pause going to come out. I think that was cCoils, so we'll give some time there for Ebog to start working on whatever their issue was. You can look at the guilty party right in the eyes here now. Taking multiple, multiple candy.
Take multiple candies bar. No shame whatsoever.
Clearly not. Did you see him just now? He looked.
I gotta get them gained somehow, right? I'll take the carbs when I can get them.
If you take it Snickers, then you're getting some protein in there, so I can't be too mad at you. Let's get back into the action. Enough fun making fun of Toli here on this, so we should be able to hop right back into the game, as it is the Talaria boots for Spartan here yet again. We talked about this for, I think it was yWaddle, who had them earlier, even with the teleport. Now it's for the Thor to move around faster, as Zen and Zachsy drop the ults.
Now, Talaria boots on junglers is a little bit better than on soul laners that already have teleport anyway. So this is going to, I think, allow Spartan to make those rotations a little bit quicker now, as he's the one with the experience lead over Jumpah. That's surprising to see, because Spartan hit level 7 before Jumpah.
I agree, and the reason I agree is because it's not as if Jumpah's been doing a lot of ganking. Right, so you would expect him to be a bit ahead. Spartan's not done a ton either, but you'd expect the Rat, who didn't have to have that same back timing as Spartan did, to have maybe be a bit ahead. But it actually is favoring Spartan out here so far.
So not going to see too much fighting over these neutral objectives. Both teams still kind of feeling each other out with all this tension, and it feels like you could just cut it with a butter knife. It's only one more game until either of these teams win the set, and currently with the standings, Nemesis are almost locked in with their 6-2 record. Ebog at 4-4 need to win every single set to keep their runnings at high res expo.
And hope that someone else is able to knock Nemesis down a few pegs as well. So you're right, Nemesis, if they can go ahead and clean this up, I think we can say a virtual lock, barring a complete collapse, the likes of which we have not yet seen from them. I think we would have their tickets punched to be able to make it if they grab this win, as Jumpah goes into the Jotuns for his first item outside of the Acorn. A bit surprised. This feels a little old school, the Jotuns, but so is Spartan as well. So they seem to have agreed as theirs. Our first through the Cosmos onto Zen.
Zen taking a whole bunch of damage there, but I'm surprised he uses his flurry at the end of this exchange. Doesn't matter though. Zachsy gets the cleanup with the time rift, and the reason why I was surprised is because you want to dart after you land to apply the slow, so that way when you use your other two abilities, you reduce the cooldowns of your dash.
Jumpah able to clean up that kill, or rather set up for that kill to happen. I mean, Zen had already used the ultimate earlier on Zachsy, and he traded it. We saw that earlier. That's why he called for that rotation from Jumpah. And even though Jumpah doesn't get the kill credit, he put Zachsy in a good spot after the monster set that Zachsy's had here so far. I'm down for those ganks all the time, but Spartan is on his way over here to this right-hand side, and it's Jarman that he catches with the tail end of that stun. He and yWaddle might not have a chance, but teleport to the axe gets Jarman out.
Just not enough damage coming through from Spartan, and Runic Shield keeps him alive against any damage out of yWaddle. Avoids the hammer very well, and that's no escape now. Jumpah's going to be able to clean this up maybe.
Yeah, Spartan is now quite low, but does trade out a little bit of damage that allows him to reposition. Even Nano, considering the rotation, but I don't know if all-ending mattkoiz is the play. Instead, he'll stick near FG. cCoils does not fully rotate over, so Nano won't get caught from behind.
So cCoils is going to be able to get that mid farm before Nano should be able to red buff for both of these mid laners. Vultiee on the Kumbhakarna making some good blink plays, and that's why he's finished off this Gauntlet of Thieves before mattkoiz, and even having a couple of stacks to his name and 2 levels.
You're right, yeah. Vultee's a good deal out in front of where mattkoiz is so far. cCoils somehow gets out of that. Was the axe just too early there?
Yeah, it looked like he was still traveling down from the sky as the axe was thrown out.
Yeah, cCoils doesn't even have to use beads. That's just great awareness. I'd have used beads just preemptively. I'd have been spamming them the whole way down, but somehow cCoils has the read and makes it out.
Surprised that Spartan used the Purification Beads and the Berserker Barrage. You're immune to knockups when you use Berserker Barrage, so he should have timed it a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, with the change to it, the window is obviously a lot shorter, but I mean, again, you have to be able to hit that timing, and maybe just not trusting himself or realizing he missed it and uses the beads.
Yeah, maybe it was just instinctual like habit where you hear the Ratatoskr ultimate, so you just burn the beads anyway.
And you are predicting there will be a stun right there afterwards, so you know you want to make sure you're immune to that as well as cCoils. Good thing he held on to those beads, gets him away from Spartan there that second time.
Definitely going to be an interesting tale now as Eboys trying to reposition themselves. Spartan's ultimate and Jumpah's not super successful in this last time around, as I think this is the least kill game thus far between all 3 that we've seen.
Well, I would say it's the least action, because game 1 was kills but not really the invades. Game 2 was invades but no kills. This game we're getting a team that knows that they got to win this game to keep their hopes alive this time.
yWaddle a little too thick for his own goods to get on through there, so he's going to have to use that World Serpent ultimate to get out of dodge.
The Threat Spaghetti indeed in some trouble there and is able to reposition. We got ourselves a little bit of 2v2 happening on this right side jungle. Jumpah catches the hail of arrows and disengages, but things have been relatively slow, and I think both squads have reasonable claims to being okay with playing slow, though maybe a little bit more towards the Chronos Khepri Merlin than the other side, as Vultiee in some trouble. Epic uppercut allows him to reposition, and Jumpah, no, Nano's out of cooldown, so Jumpah's fine.
Zachsy's rotation trying to shoo Nano away from the action, and that was a heavy rotation trying to get 1 kill. It also kind of discourages maybe counter rotation, so Eboys survives that by the skin of their teeth. Vultiee needed to do what he can with that epic uppercut after getting landed on by a little pesky squirrel.
Was a worry there, but makes down for nothing. But to my conversation I was trying to have, is there a team that maybe feels a little bit better about waiting past mid-game than the other here, you'd say?
I think that both teams have claims for the late game. Zachsy on the Chronos, Zen on the Olorun, these 2 magical hunters. Slightly favoring Zachsy just because of that Chronos passive. Every 2 minutes that goes by, Chronos gains 5 magical power. Then not to mention Zachsy with the accelerate on that 4th quadrant is going to be chunking these towers. Whereas I think Eboys on the Ullr kind of falls off hard as opposed to cCoils on the Merlin that can only get better as the game progresses. And thus far, he had a great start at 2-0. But since then, there's no objectives really, no Gold Fury, no Pyromancer, no towers as well. There hasn't been too much setup from Vultiee on the Kumbhakarna, but this next siege could change that story.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised we haven't seen a bit more from Eboys around this Gold Fury, but just as we start to mention it, looks like they agree. But they're not really trying to pull. This is more about a pick and catching someone from Nemesis poking their head in with the way they're positioning. And now with the teleport to hammer, they're done with that entirely, just heading back to mid.
They have a lot of long-range poke and setup on top of it. Vultiee, though. Double yawn route onto Zachsy. Zen gonna get flanked by Jumpah, though.
Zaxy does get that rewind off in time, takes to the sky, does Jumpah, and he'll bide his time from here. Finds a 3-man knockup. That's pretty good, but there's not really any follow-up off the back. It just gets Nemesis out of dodge, and Ebogs will take this time to back as cCoils lives as well.
Taking a lot of damage from this level 13 Thor. Waddle almost getting soloed by Jarmangandr. There goes the Berserker's Barrage. mattkoiz going to look for something through the wall. Can't keep him in place for Jumpah to clean up.
Nice work there from Spartan to finally go clean up that kill there onto cCoils, but he might pay for this one with his life. He doesn't have the ultimate either to reposition. The wall buys him a little bit of time, but Jarman, if he could find the blink into the slow, but Spartan has the beads, gets out of there. Vultiee, though, is in the passive. He should fall.
He definitely will, despite the rotation from Waddle, knocking up Zaxy, not in time to save out his support player. Nano walking away with literally 1 health, but Jumpah at least can clean up the speed buff. So this is looking like a back-and-forth exchange.
Doesn't it feel almost like two teams that are waiting on someone to make a mistake rather than looking to try and make a play? You know, it feels as if these two teams are kind of wringing their hands, like once they step out of line, we'll punish, rather than, you know, maybe taking a step to force someone out of line.
And sometimes that is the correct way to play.
Sure.
But not all the time, as Zen should survive this 1v2. Not much mana for Jumpah. Also, he misses out the stun, as does Zaxy. Zen could turn around some poke now. Jumpah gonna eat that for nothing. Spartan in the back, looking for poke onto cCoils, knowing that his relics are on cooldown.
It felt almost like a bluff there from Zen, not like he was selling that he had way more backup than he actually did, but Nemesis weren't particularly interested in that chase anyway. They just fell back, and now Gold Fury being looked at by Ebogs, and I don't know that Nemesis believe that this is as heavy of a commitment as it is. Up into the sky, I believe, just went Spartan as well, so he's on full satellite
view.
Zoning. And no one's on the way.
No, he's just zoning while Zen is getting this Gold Fury. Easy peasy. No one here to stop Zen.
I wonder why no one was there to stop Zen.
Well, Jumpah was very low earlier. During that gank, he had to back in time. I think he was grabbing his speed buff. He backed to finish off the Void Shield.
mattkoiz and Zaxy were doing purple, and there was a ward there, so Ebogs knew about that the whole time, and I think they even backed on the back end of that, so.
Yeah, Nemesis had no vision on the Gold Fury, which is a very important detail.
Exactly, gotta make sure you at least have some information there as Jumpah blinks in and makes it to the sky just barely in time. Zen even got some crits towards the tail end, and they just were not enough damage, and now Zaxy left alone. He still has Aegis, and he still has that rewind, but he'd be rewinding way back down the lane at this point.
And a little far away from mattkoiz as well. He still has another secondary life with the Scarab's Blessing. Now that cCoils is here with Jarmangandr, hard to continue the chase onto Zaxy, but with 2 ultimates down, I think Ebogs should win the rest of this fight.
Yeah, Jarman are here now to blink in and drop the Storm Call, but even that wasn't much by way of setup. That's the hammer down for Spartan, but he'll take to the sky.
He should. mattkoiz is in a lot of trouble, forced to use the Scarab's Blessing defensively on himself.
But cCoils turns things around. They got 1 kill. Vultiee falls as well. That's a double there for Merlin. I don't know totally about coming back in.
He just went down too early, Finch. The rest of his teammates weren't around him to follow suit.
And now Nano in some trouble as well. He's got to jump away and is indeed able to use that to disengage. And this is what I was talking about before, about maybe it feeling a bit more about waiting on a mistake to happen. I think finally one did, and that's why Nemesis were able to get a really good fight there.
You would think that Ebogs should win that fight, seeing how the rewind was used, as was through the Cosmos defensively just to disengage, but instead Ebogs tried to take a fight without their solo laner. Waddle was still split pushing in that solo lane. He does get the tier 1 tower, strips away the blue buff, but at this point, 19 minutes, those 2 small objectives are not worth giving up a tower on the left side and all those kills.
And you're right, Jarman had his name all over that fight on that Chaac there that time, so I'm just an advantage for Nemesis that Ebogs had to make sure that they're wary of when they, you know, re-engage in those spots. They did get the Fury, the only Fury here of this game, so it's hard to be too upset, but it just feels like it could have been a Fury and then getting away without giving up kills.
Both of these Chronos and Ullr players so like relentless, no fear in their eyes as they're trying to box each other 1v1. Jarmangandr gonna get zoned away by Spartan for the moment, but I don't see Nano defending this tier 2 tower for much longer.
Well, he could be in a lot of trouble. Jumpah has gone to the sky. This could be more than just a tier 2 tower defense. The bead's a little bit too late. He was already in the sky and should be dead, but they can't find that last bit of damage, and Pyromancer went down.
Surprised that chase doesn't continue from Jumpah, seeing how he still had the blink available. Even though he used all 3 abilities, he had plenty of mana to continue that chase, but instead being very disciplined, respectful, worried about the rotation from yWaddle that did use teleport under that tier 2 tower.
So Nano makes it back out of there in a situation where he looked potentially dead to rights, so that's big for him. Ebog were indeed able to grab that Pyromancer. You saw Nano moving with some of that extra speed there just now, courtesy of that buff. But he's still a good bit behind cCoils. He's got to find some farm somewhere.
He definitely does. Level 17 Merlin that has the 1 death. You would think Nano, with 2-0 on the scoreline, would be a little bit better off than where he is now. With that Crusher finished, working on more MP5 now. Going to be the Heartseeker coming out of him.
This is something that we saw a little bit earlier in the day here as well. So some people still valuing the Heartseeker here at this point. As Vultiee finds a Mez, the wall means the full disengage. Ebog do not want this fight.
No, definitely not. Spartan was just a little too far out there going for those back camps. Normally this late in the game, back camps, not really worth it. But I guess you're still trying to get to level 20, and this 2-level lead against Jumpah has been working out for the Thor, trying to finish off what I'm assuming is a Relic Dagger.
That's what it's looking like there to me. I was wondering, because Vultiee just took his back too, where he was going to go with his second Relic, and it's a shell, fully upgraded as well with that Relic Dagger, so Vultiee is going to have more of these shells. The Relic Dagger's finished there for Spartan. He'll have more Beads Aegis up as well. You know, we don't always see Relic Dagger into Beads Aegis on junglers. It's usually Blink.
Yeah, but I think this is still a good pickup regardless.
Sure.
You get movement speed, health, a little bit of penetration here, Vultiee. It's going to be fine. They're long range stun from Jarmangandr. Sorry, I was thinking about Toxic Blade. No penetration on Relic Dagger.
An axe missing off Nano off the initiation for all this, but it still could turn into a really good fight. mattkoiz gets the Scarab's Blessing off in time. Jarman with a really delayed Storm Call able to get in there too, all thanks to Sanctified Field. And look how low Vultiee is, but he's still staying in the front line because they knew Spartan was coming in, but he gets abducted the second he lands. Zaxy finds the first kill, and very low in the backlines Vultiee, but he made it out as yWaddle gets all the way to mattkoiz.
Zen in a little bit of trouble. He was being harassed by Jumpah, but yWaddle is keeping him in place, not allowing him that kind of pressure. Zaxy gonna pluck him away. Nano gonna get taken out as well. 3 dead Ebog members.
This ends up being somehow a really good fight there for Nemesis, despite the way that that started, and actually what was a pretty good Sanctified Field, but I think this Scarab's Blessing is starting to pose too much of a problem now for Ebog.
It really is, but that fight, I think that was the best case scenario, that you force mattkoiz to use that ultimate on himself. The bigger problem was that Zaxy got off the rewind as well. He didn't have to even use that Aegis. There's so much just perseverance from all of Nemesis. Chaac self-sustained. Jumpah is very squirmishy, being the Ratatoskr in general, right? cCoils can flicker away. mattkoiz with a second life. Zaxy with a second life. And even a health build with the Ethereal Staff makes it harder to stick on the Chronos.
Well, it's Fire Giant time here for Nemesis now as they have this objective pulled. They want to force Ebog in before they've had a chance to try and reset, but it's a bait. They drop the objective and look for the fight instead. Taken to the sky is Spartan. He does find the dunk down onto one, but can't commit. Meanwhile, Jumpah meets yWaddle in the jungle, and he's half HP.
I don't know about this play from yWaddle. A little bit too far out of position. World Serpent just now coming off of cooldown is going to go onto cCoils.
Well, he would have known he was only a few seconds away, so not a bad bait.
He's committing
from him there at all. He's full in with a third shot. There's the Sanctified Field coming out from Zen as well, but it feels like he just doesn't do enough damage. Again, it's an all-in command to mattkoiz, and they still haven't gotten him.
Oh, finally Spartan blinks into the hammer, gets off the Berserker Barrage. Zaxy in a little bit of trouble without the rewind or defensive relic. Zaxy still trying to fight for his life.
I just don't know about this target selection there from Ebog as Jarman comes to the backside of the fight. Spartan is made to pay. He ends up falling. In from the sky comes Jumpah as well, and yWaddle's become the target. We know he doesn't have an ultimate this time. Stunned and done. They sent him back to base.
A 2-for-1 at the end of the day. Nemesis with a 4-on-3 advantage. Gonna barrel down the mid lane. Jumpah looking for a flank. Gonna allow Vultiee to back so that he can maybe kill Zen.
blinks in, but cannot find the stun. Does dash forward to try and find the body block, but that doesn't land either, so Zen casually is able to walk his way out of there, but they do grab the tier 2 tower.
Which is what they wanted. 1,500
sure they
more
wanted Zen
gold at the end of the day. Yeah, if they got Zen, maybe they force out a Fire Giant, but at least...
You got to stun him for that to happen.
Yeah, you do. And not the easiest ability to connect, as Jumpah just narrowly missed all 3 acorns on that one, but he's still in a good spot now. He was 2 levels behind. Both of these junglers are back and forth battling in the level department. It was funny because Jumpah hits level 7 first, but then Spartan hits level 8 first. And then original Spartan hit level 18 while Jumpah was level 16, and now Jumpah's level 19 while Spartan just now hits 19.
Now the farming has really come in waves for both of these two teams. It's been so close, back and forth, and it felt like it's come down to which team has done the team fights better, as Nemesis do, at the very least, grab themselves a Pyromancer. And I say at the very least, I mean, they have turned this game around. They've now got a gold lead for themselves. I'd argue they had experience where they wanted the whole game, too. Nemesis are finally in a spot where they can, start to call some plays.
And they should be able to exploit maybe Ebog's builds a little bit better here. Like, this is a very glass cannon style out of Spartan. Once he commits, I don't see how he gets out, which is why he went for the Relic Dagger for the health, and then maybe more Purification Beads and Egg Assist if there's several fights.
Jarman has yWaddle a bit isolated. The ultimate's available, so I doubt yWaddle dies here as long as he has the recognition to use the ultimate in time. Storm called means that he is going to die there. yWaddle, so unnecessary with the ultimate up.
It's a lot of damage from that Storm Call here. A good play from Jarmangandr. You either get the silence off or at least you force out the ultimate. Best case scenario, they got it. They got the kill. 45 seconds without yWaddle, 5-on-4 as Nemesis should get this tier 1 tower, and the whole world is their oyster if they want to go for the tier 2 or the Fire Giant.
yWaddle won't have that teleport up when he gets back, so he won't be into the fight instantly, but Vultiee gets chunked, has to use Epic Uppercut defensively just so they can start to reposition. But yeah, I don't know that that back was going to happen there either, buddy. Nemesis threatening the tier 2 here and right.
A very important Epic Uppercut to proc that pre-win for the extra shell. Up in the sky is Zaxy going to try to go onto Spartan.
Yeah, Jumpah has found himself a target here on the left-hand side, is able to find the stun. That's the hammer down as well, so Spartan doesn't have that way out, and Jumpah starting to ping. He knows where Spartan is. Good wall, into the hammer again for damage. Spartan's a madman.
Oh, but Vultiee blinks between a rock and a hard place. He's surrounded and grounded. 1v3 barely dashes away until cCoils is covering the option.
Well, to be fair, he kind of baited Vultiee in there that time. I don't know if he was ever going to make it back out, so they end up losing Vultiee and Spartan, and yWaddle died way back at the beginning of this engagement. I'm calling it a 3-for-0 for Nemesis.
Oh yeah, great plays now. Nemesis should be able to squeeze out this Fire Giant objective. The steal potential from Ebog is not in burst. It's more about harassment and wave. So that's why it's not only Jarmangandr zoning, but also cCoils. They see where 2 members are. They don't see where Zen is, though.
Yeah, I don't know if they've got any information on where he is, because he's in an odd position. He'll just take the Fury in trade while the rest of the team does their best to delay the Fire Giant. yWaddle forced into the ultimate. Won't even go in to try and see if he can steal it. Nemesis secure the FG, and Nano now in the full disengage, but Jumpah not going to let it be that easy. A good time to jump, though, from Nano, but even still, Jumpah has a chance to find a kill here with that flurry.
And gets the stun off as well.
Silenced.
Storm Call is negated by the bead. Zen needs the damage to get away, but he's slowed by the rainstorm.
I've been critical of Jumpah here, but that's a pretty sick sequence from him to be able to find that kill in the 2v1 and set up for his team to come in and get Nano as well. Ebog now starting to reel a little bit. That first game was good, but it's been all Nemesis since then.
This could be over very quickly, Finch, if they can get this middle Phoenix. 30 seconds on Nano, 40 for Zen. A blink up duck gets negated by the blink mez out of Vultiee.
But he's been stunned on the backside of that. Does Epic Uppercut to reposition, and yWaddle keeps the team zoned. Spartan wants to come in for a little bit more damage as well, but yWaddle, he might have signed his life away. No, he is able to get back underneath the tier, or underneath the Phoenix this time, but Vultiee has to back as well.
Nemesis looking for their first Phoenix of the game. They easily get that one, and instead of trying to go for any funny business on the Titan room, should be able to get this last remaining tier 2 tower, although Oni Fury's not too bad here either.
They'll go grab this to help out with their next push. They should have plenty of gold at their disposal once they back here as well. to try and find some power spikes. Over 25K for most of them, a little bit less for mattkoiz.
They had collectively like 9,000 gold in hand between those 5 members. So this is looking very clean now for Nemesis. Once they regroup, having about 2 more minutes on this Fire Giant objective, and they're getting closer and closer to their final form. Jarmangandr working on that Height of Urchin stacks is only 1 more away from completing those stacks to get that health shield that he so desperately needs.
And I think that this is the only wave that's meeting over there on the right side. All the other ones are cleared, and that's the last one. So maybe they could make a push with that, but that's about it as far as value out of the Oni Fury.
Yeah, they could potentially push with that wave. They will use the global pressure from Jumpah.
No, this is the wave here, okay.
Yeah, that way. So Jumpah's going to clear out the right side very easily by himself, keep members at bay from Eboys, and then use that through the Cosmos to regroup when he needs to.
So they should have plenty of time. This furthest pushed up wave on all 3 should still be Oni, and Spartan has teleported to the hammer. This has been such a curious game for Spartan, but maybe he's actually baited Nemesis in to an awful spot. The Sanctified Field was there for the entirety of that fight, but even still, Zaxy, unstoppable, finds 7 in a row, and they're going to keep up the pressure. Spartan dunks back in, but cCoils shrugs it off, and now yWaddle suddenly in some trouble. He's going to waddle his way back to base.
1 by 1, they go down and down, looking for maybe another pick onto Vultiee. They need to give up this left side Phoenix. Vultiee is at half health. This is 2.5 versus 5 Nemesis members.
And this has just not been the performance they needed from this Thor. Zen does find the beads. The Aegis has to come out as well, but that's the left side Phoenix down. The mid Phoenix was already removed, and Nemesis ready to start moving into the Titan room here now. Titan down to half HP. cCoils able to claim the head of Spartan. Zaxy gets Zen, and that means that Nemesis grabbed the set 2-0.
And despite losing game number 1, they go on to win 2 consecutive ones. Nemesis were never counting themselves out.
It really did not feel like it, and that game 3 was a really important bounce-back game, I would say, for Nemesis. It was the best they looked in the entirety of that set. But I would also argue they were helped a good bit by some less than stellar play from Eboys.
I agree. Both teams had some good plays. Both teams had some sloppy plays. I'm sure they'll look back at the tape and, correct their mistakes for the future. This is still not the end of the console league in general. We're in week number 10 of the PlayStation 4 European side of things.
And Nemesis, I think, at this point have done enough work to finally widen that gap out where we can say that they'll very likely be the ones who make their way here for that placement week. Remember, console plays in. Only 2 teams come out from the 4 that are sent here into the actual placement week. So that's what Nemesis had to really start gearing up to be prepared for. But Jumpah had a really impressive game, I would say, in this Ratatoskr. Zaxy was the MVP of the set. He did not have a bad game at any point.
By far. Xing in games 1 and 2, and then Chronos in game number 3. This Chronos we thought was questionable because of how well he was playing on the Xing.
Right, no need to switch, but...
But when you end up 8-0-6 to be a part of 14 of your team's 18 kills, yeah, not a bad game at all from Zaxy.
I think I agree, Zaxy. If you can do Jing and Chronos both that well, feel free to switch at any time as far as I am concerned. Nemesis are the ones that are your victors here, 2-1 on PS4 EU or NA, but we're not done with NA. It's Xbox here in just a few minutes.